Chapter 460. Boom. The cold power that burst out of the tombstone rushed toward him. The cold power was so shocking that it could be clearly felt from the ice crystals that were several meters thick that condensed in the air. Moreover, it seemed to be extremely fast, and a mysterious power from the tombstone locked Ku Rong in an instant. There was no way for him to escape or avoid it. It's the legendary ancient tomb of the god of sin, it must be. If I can become the owner of the tomb of the god of sin, the ancient giants and peerless powerhouses won't be a problem. I've obtained a great opportunity before Ku Rong, and half of my cultivation base has been restored. Now, I've encountered the tomb of the god of sin. Haha, it must be my destiny. I'm the real protagonist of heaven and earth with great luck. This mere power of ice won't be able to hurt me. I have the mandate of heaven on me. Break it. When true Lord Ku Rong saw the mysterious tombstone that stood proudly in front of him as if it grew out of the earth, he was terrified, but at the same time, a strong sense of greed appeared in his eyes. For a moment, he seemed to have seen himself obtaining the tomb of the god of sin, becoming the owner of the tomb, and standing at the same height as the peerless powerhouses. He almost went crazy, and his eyes turned red. Looking at the cold power that was rushing toward him, he pointed at the ancient bell above his head, and the reincarnation bell immediately let out a mighty bell ring. The moment the bell rang, the countless flowers, plants, and trees that were branded on the bell turned into a beautiful picture scroll that flew out along with the sound wave and covered the sky above his head. It was as if this area had become his unique domain where everything was under his control. Whoosh. Nevertheless, it seemed that true Lord Ku Rong was not the main character that he had imagined and was blessed with great luck. The chilly air that burst out from the tombstone came in an instant and touched the gorgeous picture scroll that was spread out from the ancient bell. Countless flowers, plants, and trees seemed to have come alive as they burst out with extremely powerful forces and emitted a powerful green divine light to block the chilly air outside. However, the frigid aura was unstoppable. Wherever it passed, thick layers of ice crystals would appear on the seemingly real and illusory plants, sealing them in ice. Not only were they lifelike, but even the second-wood power they exuded was frozen in ice. It was terrifying. Although the cold power slowed down its advance, it did not stop at all and continued to rush toward true Lord Ku Rong like a tide. It was as if he would not give up until he sealed true Lord Ku Rong in ice. In the blink of an eye, they arrived in front of Ku Rong. What a domineering chill. Protect me with the reincarnation bell. Ku Rong's expression changed. However, the madness in his eyes became even more intense. He let out a wild roar, and the sound of the bell rang continuously. Suddenly, a strong green divine light gushed out from the green pearl embedded at the top of the ancient bell. It covered the ancient bell and turned it into a green color. Countless green chi hung down from the ancient bell and weaved into a barrier, blocking the cold air. The cold air and the green light collided, and with a loud boom, the space at the point of collision was distorted and annihilated by the terrifying power that erupted from the collision. Large amounts of ice crystals spread out in all directions, as if they were going to freeze the entire world. That ice could even freeze the void. However, the green light in front of it was unexpectedly tough. Although it kept shaking, and even the green light was about to be frozen, with the support of the ancient bell, there was no sign of it collapsing. Bang! Finally, after a short stalemate, the vast cold power was exhausted. What? What a domineering tombstone. What a terrifying cold power. How could that *T true Lord block that? After a long time, Kai Hua exhaled a mouthful of turbid air from his chest. He looked in front of him in shock. There was still a glittering path of ice crystals in the distance between the tombstone and Ku Rong. It was like a huge iceberg, and the cold air it exuded could be clearly felt even if one was standing hundreds of feet away. Ku Rong is not powerful. It's his ancient bell. No, it should be the pearl embedded in the ancient bell. Chen Shi's eyes fell on the ancient bell and stared at the green pearl without blinking. At that moment, she clearly saw that the green light was emitted from the pearl. Obviously, the real treasure was the green pearl. No wonder the king wants to list this place as a forbidden area and not let us enter casually. It turns out that it's really that scary. Bai Susu said with a hint of realization in her shock. If it was them who attacked just now, no one would be able to escape from that cold power. Ha ha, this *T true lord will be hard-pressed to survive this time. Look, the tombstone is doing something new again. The Black Ape King opened his eyes wide and watched the development of the situation without blinking. Rumble. Sure enough, the tombstone seemed to have a spirit that ordinary people could not imagine. After seeing that its ice power was unable to freeze the ant that had offended the forbidden area, it was really angry. The tombstone shook. The tombstone grew on the ground, so when the tombstone shook, the entire Myriad Demon Valley shook violently. It was as if there was an unparalleled ferocious beast that had existed since ancient times was about to wake up. A vast power surged into the sky. The clouds in the sky were frozen. Bang! When the shaking reached its most intense, the tombstone suddenly rose from the ground. The ancient tombstone did not flash with any brilliance, nor did it have a vast aura. Even the cold power emitted from its surface was instantly withdrawn. What was left was only the ancient seal script on the tombstone. Other than that, it was just an ordinary tombstone. The tombstone flew into the air and appeared above Kurong's head. The tombstone gently pressed down. On the surface, there was no power. However, when this seemingly ordinary tombstone came crashing down, Kurong's expression changed. His expression turned incredibly unsightly. He realized that the space around him had unknowingly locked him down. The vast power had turned into a cage, and he couldn't even dodge or lift a finger. It was as if he had been cast with a spell. He watched in horror as the tombstone pressed down on him from above. No. The ancient bell bore the brunt of the attack. It was pressed down by the tombstone. There was a loud cracking sound, and countless terrifying spiderweb-like cracks appeared on the bell's body. Then, the cracks spread to the entire ancient bell. With a bang, the ancient bell shattered into countless fragments that flew in all directions. Even the green bead on the bell flew a few 100 feet away and fell to the ground. However, it did not shatter. In an emergency, Kurong took out a bowl and placed it on his head. A layer of dense light emitted from the bowl and covered his entire body. Bang! With a loud bang, the tombstone came crashing down like a hot knife through butter. Kurong was smashed into the ground by the tombstone like a carrot. The ancient tombstone fell to the ground, and cracks spread out in all directions. How terrifying! What kind of tomb is this? Even a tombstone can suppress an expert like an immortal to death. There is no resistance at all. Look, when Chen Shi and the others saw this scene, they could not help but exclaim in surprise. However, the tombstone immediately flew up into the air after suppressing Kurong into the ground. Looking at the ground, Kurong was pressed into the ground. They did not know if he had been crushed into meat paste or something else, but they could not see a trace of him. On the contrary, after the tombstone flew up, the towering tomb behind the tombstone also appeared. Behind the tombstone was a mysterious and ancient tomb door that was tightly shut. There were countless mysterious seal scripts on the tomb door that were distributed in every inch of space. It's not true, Lord Kurong. The heavens are on my side. I will not die. The heavens are on my side. Crack. At the place where the tombstone was pressing, the ground shook, and a withered hand reached out from the ground. Then, another hand reached out and kept digging at the soil. In the blink of an eye, blood spurted out from all over Kurong's body like spring water. Countless wounds appeared on every inch of his body. He looked extremely miserable. Blood kept spurting out of his mouth, and there were pieces of flesh in the blood. There was a strange bowl on his head, and there were large cracks on it. Bang! The tombstone fell again and smashed Kurong into the ground again. When the tombstone flew up into the air again, a bone claw that revealed white bones rose from the ground again. After a few scratches, a skeleton wobbled out from the ground. There were still traces of blood on the bones. Of the two eyes, one of them had already exploded. I won't die. I have great luck. How can I die? Kurong was only left with a skeleton, but he was still alive. He squeaked and looked at the tombstone as if the heavens were on his side. Hit me again, and I can climb out again. F***CK. This guy was more stubborn than a cockroach. Rumble. However, this time, the tombstone did not fall down again. Instead, the position of the tomb shook violently, and the door of the tomb suddenly opened. Behind the door was darkness, which was abnormally deep. It emitted a strong suction force that fell on Ku Rong, wrapping him up and pulling him into the tomb. No. The speed was extremely fast, and Ku Rong did not have any chance to react. He was instantly sucked into the tomb, and the only thing that remained in the air was a roar of unwillingness. After he was sucked in, the tomb door slammed down again with a loud bang, and the tomb was sealed once again. Everything was as usual, as if the previous incident had never happened. The tombstone in the air fell back to its original position, blocking the tomb and covering everything behind it as if it had existed since ancient times and had never changed. As usual, it was simple and mysterious, and there was a cloud of cold air surrounding it. Swoosh! Just as the tombstone fell back to its original position, in the distance, a rolling Huangquan river crossed the boundary between heaven and earth and instantly appeared above the myriad demon valley. At the same time, the divine light dissipated, and the figure of the Huangquan river also disappeared. True Lord Ku Rong, if you really have the guts, come at me, Di Shitian. What's the point of bullying the weak? The divine light dissipated, and two figures descended from the sky. A roar spread out in all directions like a tide. Di Shitian's eyes swept across the valley like lightning. Another week has passed. I hope that everyone can vote for me when you're reading the book. To be continued. If you want to know what's going to happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author and support the legal reading. Chapter 461. The valley was in a mess. The pagoda that stood in the valley was smashed into pieces, and the various buildings that were originally built were also smashed into pieces. The formation map was broken, and the kings and emperors inside were all killed. Although the formation map was not completely destroyed, the kings and emperors could slowly recover with time. However, they could not be of much use in a short period of time. When the group of monsters retreated, the valley was also in a mess. The traces of a battle were shocking. All of this, in Di Shitian's eyes, caused an increasingly violent fury to rise in his heart. It could not be suppressed as it flashed in his eyes. Perfected Lord Ku Rong? He clenched his fists tightly and his face was extremely cold without any other expression. He scanned the surroundings inch by inch coldly. Forbidden area, there are fluctuations of a battle in the forbidden area. Di Shitian suddenly looked in the direction of the forbidden area and felt a trace of aftershock. However, he did not use his mind to check. No matter what superpowers or mind, they would be ineffective when they were close to the forbidden area. If he did not go there personally, he would not know what was going on inside. What forbidden area? Medusa asked in confusion. Obviously, she did not know that there was a forbidden area here. However, Sakura obviously didn't have the time to answer her now. His figure swept forward like lightning and quickly rushed into the forbidden grounds. Once he entered the forbidden grounds, the scene that appeared in front of him couldn't help but make his figure strangely stop in mid-air as he looked in front of him with some surprise. In front of him, Chen Shi, the Black Ape King, Chihua, and the hundreds of thousands of demons appeared in front of him in an instant. There was not a single trace of injury on their bodies, nor was there a single wound. Xiao Bai was also lying in Chen Shi's arms. It was as if everything in front of him was completely out of his expectations. He originally thought that he would see rivers of blood and corpses everywhere. Even he was unable to react to this sudden change in attitude. It was simply too unexpected. Your subordinate respectfully welcomes the return of our king. When Kaihua and the others saw Di Shitian walking on the vast Huangquan, they were overjoyed. They knelt down in unison and shouted loudly, "Welcome back, my king!" Hundreds of thousands of demons shouted in unison, almost like a landslide and a tsunami. The loud cheers soared into the sky. When the little demons saw the figure of Sakura standing in mid-air, the reverence in their eyes was almost clearly visible. Big brother, Xiao Bai misses big brother. Xiao Bai happily jumped out of Chen Shi's arms and pounced towards Di Shitian. With a whoosh, she landed in his arms and rubbed her head against his chest. She stared at him without blinking, using her unique method to express her longing for him. Big Brother also thinks about Xiao Bai every day. Looking at Xiao Bai, the softest part of her heart could not help but be touched. She gently stroked Xiao Bai's head and said softly, "Everyone, please get up." At the same time, he turned to look at the demons. The cultivation of the demons had greatly improved compared to before. It was obvious that they did not waste their time. "Thank you, my king." After Kai Hua and the others thanked him, they stood up as well. Where is perfected Lord Ku Rong?" Di Shitian landed and came to Chen Shi's side. He asked softly, "I got the news that perfected Lord Ku Rong is going to attack the southern barbarians, so I immediately rushed back. Looking at the situation in the valley, Ku Rong should be here already. But..." He looked around and saw that everything was withered. It seemed to be caused by a fierce battle. On the ground, there was a huge iceberg that was sealed in ice. He was not unfamiliar with this iceberg. If he was not mistaken, it must have been caused by the cold air that burst out from the tombstone. Back then, he almost died because of this cold air. He had a deep impression of it. Tomb of the God of Sin. This is an ancient tomb of the God of Sin. How could there be an ancient tomb of the God of Sin in the southern barbarians? Chen Shi hadn't even finished speaking when Ming had let out a wave of resounding exclamations of shock in Chen Shi's mind. Her voice carried shock and disbelief as if she'd seen the most unbelievable thing in the world. Tomb of the God of Sin? What ancient tomb of the God of Sin? Sakura keenly sensed something unusual. With the identity of Dark in this world, if it could make him make such a fuss and cry out uncontrollably, then the matter must not be simple. It must not be simple at all. Otherwise, it wouldn't be like this. My ancestor, how is this possible? There is actually an ancient tomb of the God of Sin here. I remember that there were only 3 ancient tombs of the God of Sin in the ancient times, and they helped 3 peerless experts achieve their goals. It is said that there are a total of 9 ancient tombs of the God of Sin. Could this be one of the remaining 6? I can't believe it's here. My ancestor, even my heart is about to jump out. In the nether prison, Dark covered its heart with its dragon claws, looking extremely excited. Its 2 dragon eyes were staring at the tombstone, and its eyeballs almost popped out. Ku Rong was swallowed by this tomb. On the other side, Chen Shi saw Di Shitian. Although there was a touch of uncontrollable joy in his eyes, he suppressed it and briefly told him what had happened. However, when he talked about the scene when true Lord Ku Rong fought with the tombstone, he could not hide his shock. He glanced at the tombstone. There is indeed something wrong with this tombstone and tomb. As expected, this isn't an ordinary tomb. Divine tomb, could this be the ancient god ink that Ming mentioned? However, what is an ancient god tomb? Sakura's heart was similarly filled with shock. Lunatic Di, you are indeed blessed with great fortune. You have the mandate of heaven. The strength of your luck is simply unstoppable. There is an ancient divine tomb in this valley of yours. Could it be that the heavens want you to set foot on the peak and become an unparalleled expert, an immortal existence? This kind of luck, TSK, even my master, the emperor of the underworld, did not have it. If you can become the owner of the ancient divine tomb, you will immediately be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with the unparalleled experts and become immortal. Moreover, you will be an invincible expert among the experts. Dark roared somewhat incoherently. His whole body kept dancing in the nether prison, and the roar shook the nether prison violently. What exactly is this ancient tomb of the gods? Sakura asked with even more anticipation. He vaguely felt that there must be a shocking secret in this ancient divine tomb. It could actually make someone become an existence comparable to the unparalleled experts. How incredible was this? If word got out, it would definitely make the whole world go crazy. I don't know. To Di Shitian's anticipation, Dark spat out a sentence that almost made him vomit blood. This sentence almost made him jump up. How can you not know? Since you don't know, why did you say that the ancient divine tomb is so magical? Di Shitian shouted angrily. I really don't know. Not only me, but my master and the other unparalleled experts in the ancient times also don't know. There are definitely no more than 3 who know, Dark said with some regret. Ming spoke with slight regret. However, it didn't conceal his deep respect for the godly tomb at all. It was even reverence. 3. You said that there are 9 ancient divine tombs. 3 of them appeared in the ancient times and already had owners. Could it be that the 3 people you are talking about are the owners of the 3 divine tombs? Sakra's mind turned and he immediately came to a realization. After thinking for a while, he immediately thought of the key point and asked, I wonder which 3 people became the owners of the ancient divine tombs in the ancient times. TSK, they are very famous. Each of them was a peerless genius in the ancient times. You've even heard of one of them. Even now, they are the master of fate, the god of fate. You've even seen his successor, Tai Xian. The Book of Fate and the Scale of Fate were the treasures that the master of fate carried with him in the past. He was a terrifying existence who could even control fate. In ancient times, it was unknown how many peerless powerhouses had besieged him, and it was unknown how many powerhouses had died in order to kill him. It was too terrifying. He could even control fate and control the river of fate. In the ancient times, some people suspected that he didn't really die, but he never appeared again. How could he not die after being besieged by so many unparalleled experts? Di Shitian felt terrified just thinking about it. It was hard to imagine what kind of inconceivable cultivation base the master of fate had. He sighed inwardly, amazing. What about the other 2? Then there's the demon master, the demon among demons, the ancestor of all demons. Howling through the heavens and earth, demons danced in chaos. With his demonic arts, even the master of fate couldn't control his fate. The 2 fought over 100 times, but there was no clear victor. He was also an invincible figure who reigned above the unparalleled experts. Dark spoke as if he was very familiar with them. The last one is the Space Master. He was also an immortal who wasn't inferior to the first 2. And they all had one thing in common, which was that they all obtained a divine tomb. After becoming the owner of the divine tomb, they advanced by leaps and bounds, grasping inestimably powerful divine abilities at an unimaginable speed. They became unparalleled experts who reigned above the heavens. So, in the ancient times, people speculated that the reason they could reach such heights was because they had an inseparable connection to the divine tomb. Unfortunately, no one except the 3 of them knew what kind of secret the divine tomb held. At that time, countless experts madly searched for other divine tombs. There was a rumor that the one who obtained the divine tomb was immortal. Even with Di Shitian's temperament, his eyes couldn't help but widen after hearing this. He stared blankly at the tombstone in front of him and said with some shock, You mean, this is the legendary ancient divine tomb? The one who obtained the divine tomb was immortal? No words could describe his feelings at this moment. If the rumor was true, then the divine tomb that even unparalleled experts coveted was right in front of him. Perhaps, if he took a few more steps forward, he could reach the heavens in a single bound and become immortal. Reigning above the unparalleled experts. Temptation? Yes, this was indeed a temptation that no one could resist. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author and support the original reading. Chapter 462. Ascending to Heaven in a Single Step. What was ascending to heaven in a single step? At this moment, whoever could seize the tomb of the god of sin and become its owner was destined to become an immortal supreme existence. This temptation could no longer be described with words. The tomb of the god of sin that even peerless experts would go crazy for was now placed in front of Di Shitian. Even if he had a strong will, under the test of the illusion of desire, he had long been so tenacious that nothing could shake the temptation. At this moment, he could not help but have the urge to seize the tomb of the god of sin for himself and recklessly rush into the tomb behind the tombstone. This could not be blamed on him. The temptation of immortality was so great that all experts in the world would abandon everything for it. Even moths flying into a flame could not extinguish the boundless desire in their hearts. The tomb of the god of sin is not something you can touch now. Legend has it that the tomb of the god of sin will choose its owner. Moreover, there is a tablet in front of every tomb of the god of sin. It is said that this tablet is used to guard the tomb of the god of sin. Just this tablet alone is not inferior to any innate spirit treasure. There are some seal scripts imprinted on the tablet, which often describe a mysterious prophecy. Dark unceremoniously poured cold water on Di Shitien's head. With your current strength, you may be comparable to an ancient monster king with the mask of the ultimate emperor realm, but the tombstone can easily crush you to death. You can't even pass the tablet, let alone the tomb of the god of sin behind it. If you act rashly and touch the tombstone, you will be in big trouble. Although the tomb of the god of sin is good, it is not something you can touch now. He was afraid that Di Shitien would not be able to resist the temptation and rashly go down and cause some accident, so he hurriedly advised him against it. He knew that in ancient times, a tombstone in front of a tomb of the god of sin had directly crushed an ancient giant to death. As long as the tombstone did not come within a certain range, there would not be any danger. Once he recklessly attacked the tombstone, TSK, he would end up like Ku Rong. He would be crushed alive. Huff. He let out a long breath, as if he wanted to expel the desire that kept emerging in his heart. His eyes slowly regained their clarity, and he sighed, "What a great tomb of the god of sin. This temptation is so great that even I almost couldn't resist it." After a short pause, he continued, "Ming, can you tell if this divine tomb of the gods in front of us has an owner?" "I can't." How the godly tombs came to be was a matter of debate among countless experts in ancient times. Some people suspected that there had been an even more glorious era before the Wildlands, and that the godly tombs were relics left behind by those people, treasures left behind for their descendants. I don't know much about the ancient tomb of the gods. Even Ming was willing to admit that she wasn't aware of this. "Shitian, what happened to you?" While he was deep in thought, a soft voice rang in his ears, waking him up. He turned his head and saw Chen Shi looking at him with a puzzled expression. He fell into deep thought as soon as he heard what Ming said. After all, only he and Ming could hear the conversation between them. Di Shitian looked at Chen Shi with a gentle smile on his face, and naturally reached out to hold her soft, jade-like hand. When Chen Shi saw this, her delicate body trembled slightly, and she instinctively wanted to avoid it. However, she stopped after a slight movement and allowed him to hold her soft hand. A strange feeling flashed in her heart, and her crystal-like earlobes unconsciously turned vermilion red, and a trace of shyness flashed in her eyes. During this period, Di Shitian's figure would appear in her heart from time to time, and a trace of affection had already appeared in her heart. This time, when she saw Di Shitian, she didn't resist like before. Instead, she felt shy. Di Shitian felt the change in Chen Shi, and a trace of a smile flashed across his heart. He understood what she meant, but he didn't pay much attention to it. He naturally held her hand, looked at the tomb of the gods, and the hundreds of thousands of demons around them, and said, "I was thinking about something just now, but it's okay now." After giving her a reassuring look, he flew into the air and said to the demons in a dignified manner, "This is the forbidden area of the Myriad Demons Valley. I've said earlier that those who trespass will be killed without mercy." When the last 3 words came out, a gust of cold air suddenly appeared in the air, and directly blew into the bodies of the demons. They couldn't help but kneel down in fear. However, just as the demons were feeling hopeless, Di Shitian changed his tone and continued, "This time, there was a reason. A strong enemy broke the border, and we had no choice but to enter the forbidden area to hide. This time, I won't pursue the trespassing of the forbidden area for the time being. However, it won't happen again, and there won't be a next time. Thank you for your magnanimity, your majesty, for pardoning our crimes." When Kai Hua and the others heard this, their faces were full of respect and gratitude, and their loyalty to Di Shitian became even more unshakable. Di Shitian waved his long sleeve, and the demons withdrew from the forbidden area in an orderly manner. Although there were more than 100,000 of them, there was not much chaos. Obviously, this was the result of Kai Hua and the others' continuous training and discipline. In his opinion, this was already quite good. After all, it was still a short time, so he couldn't ask for too much. In the valley, under the waterfall, Di Shitian and Chen Shi walked side by side, walking forward. Although they didn't speak, when they looked at each other, a faint warmth began to naturally spread around them. Shia. Yes. When I was crossing the desire state, it was thanks to you that I was able to break through the desire state at the last moment, transcend the desire, and step into the third transformation of the Yaodan. Di Shitian stopped and looked seriously into Chen Shi's eyes. That touch of gratitude was indeed from the bottom of his heart. Even now, thinking about the scene in the desire state, he felt scared. Cold sweat dripped down his body. He was only one step away from entering the state of eternal damnation. Chen Shi smiled and shook his head, saying, Shitian, who am I in your heart? Wife. Di Shitian said without hesitation. Since I'm your wife, you're my husband. There's no need for thanks between husband and wife. Chen Shi looked quietly at Di Shitian, a touch of shyness on his face, but he didn't dodge and said seriously, but, when you do anything, I hope you can think of me and Xiao Bai. When Di Shitian heard this, he couldn't suppress a kind of ecstasy in his heart. Only today, he truly felt that each other's shadow was in their hearts. This kind of affection was simply not there in the past. Nodding, he said, this time I'm back, I won't be leaving for a short time. It's time to start the construction of the Demon City. As he said that, he paused, looked directly into Chen Shi's eyes, and said seriously, I plan to wait until the Demon City is built, that will be the day we get married. At that time, I want to give you an incomparably grand wedding. In his words, there was incomparable conviction. This was a kind of promise, a promise that came from the bottom of his heart. He owed Chen Shi a lot, and the only thing he could give him was a grand wedding that was worth a lifetime of remembrance. This was also what he had wanted to do for a long time. Unconsciously, Chen Shi felt that the softest part of his heart was touched by something, and the feelings in his heart were even stronger. He seemed to be a little shy and even at a loss. He quickly changed the topic and asked, You once said about the Demon City back then, but according to your idea back then, the resources needed to build it are inestimable. To make the entire ancient city fly in the air, this is not something that can be done by ordinary means. There are also other things. If you can't solve them, if you want to build it, I'm afraid. He didn't continue, but the meaning was quite obvious. Indeed, no matter from which point of view, with the current strength of the Demon Valley, it was impossible to talk about how to build such an ancient city. Shia, take a look at this jade slip. Di Shitian smiled confidently again, took out a jade slip, and handed it to Chen Shi. Chen Shi took it doubtfully and probed the jade slip with his demon awareness. Suddenly, he saw that her face changed continuously like a kaleidoscope. The speed was so fast that it was unbelievable. Di Shitian didn't disturb her, but just stood quietly aside, looking at Chen Shi's perfect and flawless face. Not only did his face become much gentler, but it was also not as cold as usual. After a while, Chen Shi withdrew her demon awareness from the jade slip and lifted her head in shock. She said in disbelief, Could it be that what is recorded in this jade slip is the demon city that you intend to build? What was imprinted in the jade slip was Di Shitian's idea of the demon city, as well as the blueprint of the unparalleled divine city obtained from the Tianji Wanshu diagram. The vast project, the majesty of the city above all cities, and the majestic blueprint of the demon city, with the 4 heavenly gates as the city walls to guard the 4 directions, with the cloud-gathering banner to gather the clouds to form the ancient city, and so on. In the eyes of anyone, it was inconceivable that all of it would be condensed in an ancient city. Even though Chen Shi had inherited the memories of the Fairy of 100 Flowers, he was still shocked by the inconceivable idea. He couldn't even think straight. Innate spiritual treasures were unimaginably precious in ancient times. They were so rare that they were pathetically used to build an ancient city. If someone else had said this to her, she would have thrown him thousands of miles away on the spot. This was simply a crazy idea. Inconceivable, really inconceivable. Whoosh. With a wave of his long sleeves, Sakra's body naturally overflowed with a kind of natural king's aura. He said in a deep voice, That's right. I, Sakra, will either not build it or build it at all. Moreover, I've already found the materials that don't belong to the 5 elements and can begin construction immediately. They will be the cornerstone of the demon city. Light flashed in his hand, and within the rainbow light, a seemingly alive, heart-like exquisite 7 orifices kettle appeared. The kettle was still pulsing and swallowing the power of heaven and earth. Within the kettle was a divine flame that would never be extinguished. This is the exquisite 7 orifices kettle, the divine kettle I told you about years ago that can refine divine crystals. With it, we can continuously refine large amounts of divine crystals. Di Shitian pulled Chen Shi's hand and walked into the pavilion above the pool. He sat down and wrapped his arm around her slender waist, letting her lean on his shoulder as he spoke of his various plans and ideas. Chen Shi also listened quietly, like a virtuous wife. In her eyes, there were traces of splendor, and she couldn't help but be lost in reverie along with Sakra's thoughts. After a long while, Chen Shi said, "Husband, if it's as you said, the divine crystal is formed from all kinds of materials in the world and the power of faith from incense. You've already become a totem in a large dynasty in the secular human world, and you have countless believers. Moreover, Hua Nation is constantly expanding its territory, and with the accumulation from before, the power of faith from incense will be endless, and there will be no shortage of it. However, the other spirit ores and materials will be a difficult task." "That's right." Di Shitian nodded and said in a low voice, "The most important thing for me to come back this time is to arrange this matter. It will be extremely difficult to obtain large amounts of spiritual materials and spiritual ores with other methods. I've thought about it. The southern barbarian lands are the foundation, so we can't excavate here. However, there are large areas of mountains and forests around the southern barbarian lands, and there are no signs of human habitation for hundreds of thousands of miles. There will be no shortage of natural resources. Our demon race has never really excavated." He had a plan long ago. In fact, on the Purple Gold Land, there were large areas of primitive areas that were rarely visited by human habitation. The demon race also rarely excavated various kinds of mineral veins. This was the origin land, and the origin land was connected to the void chaotic world. The chaotic chi would always flow into the origin land, and this chaotic chi would turn into a large amount of spiritual chi and enter the origin land to form various mineral veins. In ancient times, the spiritual chi transformed from chaotic chi was already many times stronger and richer than now. The spiritual chi at that time was innate spiritual chi, not the acquired spiritual chi of today. Unfortunately, due to the birth of the heaven realm, the demon realm, and even countless small thousand worlds, the spiritual chi of the origin land was thinned out, causing the Purple Gold Land to become what it was today. It could be said that every small thousand world would make the spiritual chi of the origin land thinner. It was difficult to distinguish whether it was a benefit or a disadvantage. However, it could still allow the mineral veins on the origin land to be regenerated after they were excavated. It might take a long time, but it would not dry up. The southern barbarian lands could not be excavated, but they could be excavated near the southern barbarian lands. The 4 heavenly gates could not be plotted now, but the foundation of the ancient city could start to be built. Then, he would use the power of the stars to refine the divine crystals into one and smelt them together. As the relationship between Di Shitian and Chen Shi deepened day by day. Half a month flashed by in an extremely short period of time. In the valley, the destroyed buildings had all been cleaned up, and some had been rebuilt. However, the Incheon Tower had not been rebuilt. Di Shitian had plans for all of this. At this moment, in a large open space in the valley, more than 100,000 demons were lined up neatly. The myriad demon valley was very big, so big that it could accommodate millions of demons. At this moment, this open space only occupied a small area. Di Shitian held Chen Shi's hand and stood in midair. In front of him, the backbone of the valley was all standing at the front. Kai Hua, Bai Yu, Bai Susu, Ying Kong, and Yuan Tian. These 5 generals who had followed Di Shitian since the beginning were all transformed demons who had condensed their inner cores. Then there was the Black Ape King and the Red-Crowned Crane King. They had already transformed their demon cores. Then there was the Rat King, Rat Da. The little rat from back then had also obtained great benefits at this moment and had already transformed. However, his figure was much shorter, and the 2 moustaches by his mouth made him look extremely wretched. His bean-sized rat eyes rolled around in a disorderly manner. All these years, he could be considered loyal and devoted. Today, the backbone of the valley, and even the demons, were all gathered together. Naturally, it was not for fun. Di Shitian and Chen Shi looked at each other and nodded slightly. With a wave of their hand, a pagoda suddenly appeared in front of them. The pagoda had 9 floors, and it was the exquisite creation pagoda. Open. Under the gazes of the demons, the exquisite creation pagoda flew into the air. In the blink of an eye, it became incomparably huge. After a soft shout, a huge crack appeared at the bottom of the pagoda. The crack turned into a vortex that kept spinning. Following that, a scene that left the group of demons dumbstruck appeared. Large batches of demons gushed out of the whirlpool like tidal waves. After coming out of the whirlpool, they stood in an orderly manner on the open ground and gathered neatly. Each and every one of them was a demon who had condensed an inner core. Under the continuous spitting, more than 3 million demons were sent out of the vortex in less than an hour. Among them, there were at least 1 million demons who had condensed their inner cores. The rest were also in the realm of demonic beasts. They were not too far away from condensing their inner cores. The aura emitted from their bodies gathered together, causing the air in the valley to start to condense. What a strong aura! Could this be the group of demons that the king brought out from the mystic realm? Any one of them has a cultivation base that has condensed their inner cores. This is great. With them around, the king's strength will definitely increase greatly. When Kai Hua saw the new 1,000,000 demons, he was shocked but also happy for the king. With them around, the king's strength would instantly increase by several levels. Of course, he was also shocked. He secretly made up his mind to work harder in his cultivation in the future. He could not embarrass the king. If he could not even compare to ordinary demons, how could he work for the king and convince the masses? Looking at each other, Bai Yu and the rest saw the same determination in each other's eyes. The sudden appearance of the demons made them feel a strong sense of danger and urgency. Greetings, my king. When there were no more demons in the pagoda, the 1,000,000 demons in the valley bowed to Di Shitian under the leadership of Hu and the other leaders. Everyone shouted in unison, and even the clouds in the sky were shaken away by the roar. Faint circles of ripples appeared in the air. Everyone, rise. Di Shitian was imposing without being angry. With a wave of his long sleeve, he ordered the demons to rise. At the same time, he looked around at the demons. There was endless majesty in his eyes. Everyone who met his eyes could not help but lower their heads. Even Hu, Jin Xian, and the other leaders also bowed respectfully. You all respect me as your king. That means you are a member of the Myriad Demon Valley. I will treat you all equally. I will be impartial. Today, I will take this opportunity to reorganize the positions. I will establish the various positions of the Myriad Demon Valley. The internet is down today. I'm writing in the internet cafe. Sorry. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 463. Long ago, Di Shitian had already informed both the Myriad Demon Valley and the demon clan of the secret realm about the existence of this place. Therefore, although Kai Hua and the others were shocked, they were not too surprised. After all, they all respected Di Shitian as their king. In the future, they would all be brothers and clansmen. Of course, to be honest, it was definitely the old subordinates of the Myriad Demon Valley who held a higher position in Di Shitian's heart. Hu and the others all understood this in their hearts. They looked at Kai Hua and the others with friendly eyes, hoping to shorten the distance between them. In the future, they could live in harmony and follow the king together. When they heard Di Shitian say that he was going to reassign their duties, the group of demons responded at the same time, "We obey the king's order." The sound shook the southern barbarian and deterred the group of beasts. Rumble. There was a violent tremor in the void, and visible distortions could be seen clearly. A crystal-clear throne stood proudly. There were mysterious seal scripts on the crystal throne, and it seemed to be connected to countless thin lines in the void, extending to an unknown place. There were all kinds of images in the surroundings, and they were pictures of the Tiger King in the divine form. Tigers leaped over the mountain stream, tigers roared in the forest. All kinds of tiger drawings were vivid and lifelike on the throne. It seemed that when one looked at it, one could hear the tiger roars full of domineering auras. On the armrests on both sides, there was an awe-inspiring divine tiger. One could hold the tiger's head with one's palm. The divine tiger's eyes seemed to contain an indescribable majesty. Under their gaze, one's heart would first tremble, and one's mind would be unconsciously attracted by it, surrendering one's heart. The quaint tiger pattern on the throne was constantly rippling like waves. Since its appearance, it had immediately become the focus of all the demons in the myriad demon valley, and even their minds were captured. It was as if that was the supreme throne of heaven and earth. Sitting on it, one could immediately become an unparalleled emperor. Nobility, mystery, and imperial aura were all condensed in this throne. Let's go up. When Di Shitian saw the throne appear, he smiled gently at Chen Shi beside him. He held her hand and walked towards the crystal throne under the gazes of thousands of demons. Stepping into the void, it was as though there was an invisible staircase beneath his feet, allowing him to ascend step by step. Ripples appeared under his feet. In the valley, not a single sound could be heard. Everyone held their breaths as their gazes followed their movements. They were only about 100 paces away from the throne, but to the demonic cultivators, each step was like stepping on their own hearts. Their hearts thumped, and the blood in their bodies surged and boiled. Their eyes were glued to the throne, as if they were anticipating something. When Di Shitian and Chen Shi walked up to the throne hand in hand and sat on it, they were shocked. A tsunami of cheers soared into the sky. King of all demons, Demon King, Demon Empress. The deafening cheers seemed to even break the sky. A fanatical look appeared in the eyes of the demonic cultivators at the same time, and they roared without restraint. The demonic cultivators who knew about Di Shitian's deeds had a strong sense of admiration and respect. The moment Di Shitian sat on the throne, a majestic aura of a king gushed out like a tidal wave. It was even more majestic under the backdrop of the crystal throne. At this moment, he was the ruler of this world, the emperor. All the people in the world were his subjects, and all the land was his territory. The power of life and death was in his hands. At this moment, Di Shitian had officially ascended to the throne of King of all demons. Sitting on the crystal throne and looking down, a sense of ambition and heroism reverberated in his chest. An unprecedented sense of confidence appeared in his body. I've already become the king of all demons. It's only a matter of time before I become the king of all demons and the emperor of all demons. He stretched out his hands and pressed down slightly. Even the entire sky seemed to be descending under this pressure. The cheers of the crowd of demons immediately stopped, and the thunderous cheers turned into silence. The sudden change of movement and stillness seemed to be a little strange. The air was solemn. Many pairs of eyes fell on Di Shitian. I am Thousand Goblin King. Sakura naturally spat out this sentence. King, king, king. The thunderous cheers in the valley echoed. Di Shitian gestured slightly to stop the cheers. After that, he said, since I'm the king, there should be laws in the valley. Everyone, do your duty. Today, millions of demons have gathered, and it's also the time to seal the demons. Every word and action of his was like the descent of the heavenly Tao. His majestic voice naturally reached the ears of the demonic cultivators. At this moment, the demonic cultivators were all listening attentively. Especially when he talked about sealing the demons, Kai Hua, and even Jin Xian's eyes lit up. They all understood that the sealing of demons this time was to completely plan out the future structure of the myriad demon valley and the various positions. Their future positions would be revealed today. All of them held their breaths. Even the lesser demons were no exception, especially the demons that came out of the secret territory. They were all differentiated by their clan, and of course, they hoped that their clan leader could seize a higher position and have a higher and more important position in the heart of the king. I want to create 4 major armies. I'll name them the First Army, Second Army, Third Army, and Fourth Army. In each army, The highest position is the commander. Under the commander, there will be 2 deputy commanders. Under the commander, there will be a general. There are a total of 9 grades. The first grade is the highest, and the 9th grade is the lowest. Under the general, there will be a captain. Under the captain, there will be a sergeant. After the sergeant, there will be soldiers. 5 demonic soldiers will be a sergeant. 5 sergeants will be a sergeant. A 9th grade demon general will be in charge of 10 sergeants. For every grade up, there will be 10 sergeants under his command. The total number of soldiers in each army will be 300,000. The minimum requirement to enter the army is to transform and condense a demonic core. A 9th grade demon general will be at least a first transformation demonic core. Di Shitian explained the 4 major armies. Each army would have 300,000 soldiers. In total, there would be a total of 1,200,000 demonic cultivators. This number was not difficult to calculate. But the key was the qualification to enter the army. To the current demonic cultivators, the threshold was very high. Demonic cultivators who had condensed a demonic core. Heavens! If Di Shitian had not brought over 1 million demonic cultivators from the secret realm, they would not be able to gather even 1 army even if they searched the entire purple gold mainland. Demon generals were divided into 9 grades. Among them, the 9th grade would be at least a first transformation demonic core. The 1st grade demon general would be at least a 9th transformation demonic core expert. From the 1st transformation to the 3rd transformation, one would be a demon king, from the 4th transformation to the 6th transformation, and from the 7th transformation to the 9th transformation, one would be a great demon. In that case, above the 1st grade demon general was the commander. Wouldn't it mean that one had to be at least a demon saint to be qualified for the position? Just thinking about it made Kai Hua, Jin Xian, and the others look at each other. They were a little shocked. If that was really the case, none of them would be able to hold these positions. Kai Hua, hear me. Di Shitian looked at Kai Hua and said in a deep voice. Your subordinate is here. Kai Hua suppressed the shock in his heart and hurriedly walked out of the ranks respectfully. He knelt down and bowed to Di Shitian and Chen Shi, who were sitting high on the throne. Kai Hua, you have followed this king since the beginning. You have been taking care of the matters in the valley. You have always been loyal and devoted. You have also been diligent in your cultivation. You have already formed a demonic core and can transform. I will make an exception and bestow you with the position of temporary commander of the 1st army. You will receive the salary of a 9th grade demon general. Every month, you will receive a 9th grade demon general salary of 1,000 demon coins. Temporary commander salary of 3,000 demon coins. You will receive a salary of 500 demon coins for your team leader, 300 demon coins for your team leader, and 100 demon coins for your team leader. Bestowment, Commander's Seal, Azure Dragon Battle Flag. Azure Dragon Battle Formation. Of course, Sakura knew that in the current valley, not to mention the demon saint of the commander level, there were not many who could reach the 9th grade demon general level. Naturally, they couldn't rigidly follow the rules. The commander of the legion would be assumed in a temporary way. One day, when they really had the cultivation to be qualified to be the commander, they would be able to be the real commander. Removing the prefix of temporary. As for demon coins, Di Shitian had already decided to replace the merit points that he had used in the past with demon coins. The demon coins would be made from divine crystals. After casting divine crystals into demon coins, a secret technique would be applied to the demon coins. It would become an object that could not be used by others or even refined into magic treasures. With the toughness of divine crystals, even immortals would find it hard to destroy it. It was most suitable to be used as a currency. The shape of the currency was like gold or silver coins. Another demon card. The demon cards were divided into different denominations: 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, 100,000, 1 million, 10 million, 100 million. The numbers on the surface of these demon cards represented the amount of demon coins, just like the banknotes in his previous life. The lowest denomination was 1,000, and the highest was 100 million. It was easy to carry and circulate. They were all made from divine crystals. Except for Di Shitian, no one could copy them. The uniqueness was enough proof. Thank you, King, for your kindness. Kai Hua will protect my myriad demon valley with his life. Chihua was overjoyed. He quickly kowtowed. His head hit the ground, and his red hair danced in the wind like a ball of fire. He stretched out his hands. From the sky, a crystal-like azure dragon seal fell into his left hand, and an azure dragon war flag with an azure dragon claw imprint fell into his right hand. There was also an immortal scroll with an azure dragon image. He respectfully held it in his hand. Long Yu and Xue Ling will be the deputy commanders of the 1st Legion, assisting Kai Hua in managing the Legion. They will receive a 9th grade demon general salary of 1,000 demon coins and a deputy commander salary of 2,000 demon coins. Di Shitian spoke again. Immediately, the patriarch of the Dragon Horse clan, Long Yu, and the patriarch of the Dragon Snake clan, Xue Ling stepped out at the same time and respectfully accepted the order. Then, they stood behind Kai Hua. They were the backbone of the 1st Legion. Eagle Kong listened to the order. Di Shitian did not hesitate and began to appoint again. This time, he wanted to lay out the framework of the future positions at once. To form a complete system. Only when the system was complete could it display an incomparably strong cohesion and erupt an even more powerful force. Each position must be completely divided. He wanted to completely integrate the myriad demon valley and operate it like an empire in the secular world. Subordinate is here. The appearance of Eagle Kong's transformation was also quite special. The most obvious aquiline nose, slender body, and 2 sharp eyes, flashing a trace of sharpness. It was extremely sharp. The division of the various departments in the myriad demon valley has officially begun. Brothers, if you have any good suggestions, please write them in the book review section. There will be more to come later. I've been trying to absorb good suggestions. Chapter 464. Ying Kong, you have also followed me since the beginning. You have been loyal and devoted to guarding the myriad demon valley. Today, you will be in charge of the 2nd Legion and temporarily take the position of commander. You will receive the salary of a 9th grade demon general. Every month, you will receive a rank 9 demon general salary of 1,000 demon coins. Temporary commander's salary will be 3,000 demon coins. Captain's salary will be 500 demon coins, sergeant's salary will be 300 demon coins, and demon soldier's salary will be 100 demon coins. Sakura looked at Ying Kong cautiously. He had never been stingy with these subordinates who had followed him before. What's more, they were all extremely diligent. They had never slacked off in their cultivation. That was why they could achieve what they had today. He believed that as long as he gave them a chance, they would become his right-hand men in the future. Reward, Commander's Seal, Vermilion Bird War Flag, Vermilion Bird Battle Formation. Thank you, my king. Ying Kong was so excited that his body trembled slightly. He quickly thanked Di Shitian respectfully. He stretched out his hands and a palm-sized Vermilion Bird Seal, Vermilion Bird War Flag, and the immortal scroll that recorded the Vermilion Bird Battle Formation fell into his hands. The Vermilion Bird Battle Formation was, of course, a battle formation in the army. It was a kind of formation, and the most wonderful one. Because this kind of battle formation was only suitable for the army to use in battle. It gathered all the strength of the army together and condensed the Vermilion Bird. The stronger the army was, the more powerful the battle formation would be. The difference between having a battle formation and not having one was like the difference between heaven and earth. A battle formation was indispensable to every legion. It was also the most important way to condense. Reward, Jin Xian and Peacock are temporary deputy commanders of the 2nd Legion. They will assist Ying Kong in managing the legion. They will receive a rank 9 demon general salary of 1,000 demon coins and a temporary deputy commander's salary of 2,000 demon coins. Sakura once again opened his mouth to confer a title, and once again appointed the clan leaders of the various clans who came out of the mystic realm as the deputy commander. This method was extremely obvious. He wanted to mix the original demon clans in the valley with the new group of demons. There would be no more demon clans in the secret realm. There would only be the demon clans in the myriad demon valley. We obey the king's order. Jin Xian and Peacock both agreed respectfully. After witnessing Di Shitian's tyrannical strength, they no longer had the slightest resistance towards him being their king. After receiving the title, he went to stand behind Ying Kong. He quietly watched the next conferment. Yuan Zhon, heed my command. A burly man the size of a small mountain walked forward with a wide grin on his face. He waved his palms, which were as big as cattail leaves, and respectfully kowtowed to Di Shitian. Wait for the bestowment. This burly man was none other than the Black Ape King. After joining the Myriad Demon Valley, he was already a first transformation Yaodan expert with his talent. However, he admired Di Shitian even more. After all these years, he had completely assimilated into it. He even named him Yuan Zhon. It was in line with his nature. Today, you will be in charge of the 3rd Legion. You will temporarily assume the position of commander and receive the salary of a 9th rank demon general. Every month, you can receive a 9th grade demon general's salary of 1,000 demon coins. Temporary commander's salary is 3,000 demon coins. The salary of a captain is 500 demon coins, the salary of a sergeant is 300, and the salary of a demon soldier is 100. Bestowment, Commander's Seal, White Tiger War Flag, White Tiger Battle Formation. Bestowment, Shi Tian and Kue Niu are temporary deputy commanders of the 3rd Legion. They will assist Yuan Zhon in managing the Legion. They will receive a 9th grade demon general's salary of 1,000 demon coins and temporary deputy commander's salary of 2,000 demon coins. The 5 Elements Lion Clan and Kue Niu Clan were both included in the 3rd Legion. Xiong Ba, heed my command. You will be in charge of the 4th Legion. Temporary commander's position, you will receive a 9th grade demon general's salary. Every month, you will receive a 9th grade demon general's salary of 1,000 demon coins. Temporary commander's salary is 3,000 demon coins. The salary of a captain is 500 demon coins, the salary of a sergeant is 300 demon coins, and the salary of a demon soldier is 100 demon coins. The 4th Legion's commander fell on Xiong Ba of the Bear Clan. Bestowment, Commander's Seal, Black Tortoise War Flag, Black Tortoise Battle Formation. Di Shitian did not confer any more titles to the remaining 2 deputy commanders. Xiong Ba was the only commander. It was not that he did not confer titles, but the remaining ones were not suitable for the position of deputy commander. Hence, it was temporarily vacant. In the future, if there were more outstanding people, he would naturally continue to confer titles. Originally, according to Di Shitian's plan, there should be a total of 5 legions: Azure Dragon, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, Black Tortoise, and Cheline. It was just nice to use the names of the 5 divine beasts to establish the legions. However, right now, 4 legions were not enough, let alone 5. It was temporarily put on hold. After conferring titles to the various legions of the demon army, Di Shitian once again assigned other duties. Sweeping his gaze around, he said in a low voice, Yuan Tian, heed my command. Your subordinate is here. Yuan Tian had already transformed and condensed his Niden. However, although he had transformed and looked like a human, his body and face were still full of golden monkey fur. There was not much difference from before he transformed. He jumped forward. The valley will set up a wine brewing division. You are the most proficient in brewing wine. Today, you will be in charge of the wine brewing division. The person in charge of the wine brewing division will be known as the wine chancellor. However, your cultivation has only condensed a Niden. Hence, you will still receive a 9th grade wine master's salary of 1,500 demon coins and a temporary wine chancellor's salary of 5,000 demon coins. Bestowal, Wine Brewing Pool, Spirit Wine Recipe. Spirit wine was of great importance, comparable to the immortal cultivation world's alchemists. It was the most important type. Di Shitian had even used the wine brewing method in the Wine God's Gourd as a reference to create a wine brewing pool. If this was given to Yuan Tian, brewing wine would definitely be twice the result with half the effort. As for the wine recipe, naturally, It was obtained from the wine god's treasured mirror. Although Sakura could use the wine god's gourd to brew them one by one, it was still okay to do it occasionally. He couldn't always spend all his energy on brewing wine. Letting Yuan Tian do these things was the most appropriate thing to do. Yuan Tian received the wine brewing pool and the wine recipe. The wine brewing pool could be sized as he wished. The wine recipe was also written in the immortal scroll. These were all things he liked to do the most. Naturally, he was overjoyed and kowtowed to express his thanks. He happily retreated to the side. Bai Yu, set up a guard in the valley to supervise the demon guard. The myriad demon valley cannot be without rules. Set a law, the myriad demon codex. You will be in charge of supervising the demons in the valley. However, if anyone violates the law, you have the right to punish them. You will be bestowed the title of 9th grade demon general, temporarily acting as the supervisor of the demon guards. The 9th grade demon general's salary will be 1,000 demon coins and the supervisor's salary will be 4,000 demon coins. You will only be responsible to me. No one else has the right to interfere. Big Rat can be the deputy supervisor. Di Shitian bestowed another reward. Without rules, nothing could be accomplished. With so many demons, if there were no laws to restrict them, there would definitely be chaos. The supervisor demon guards were almost equivalent to the imperial guards of the Ming dynasty in his previous life. They had great power. They were practically supervising the demons. In addition, Big Rat's ability to gather all kinds of information was first class. It could be said to make the best use of everything. Set up a myriad medicine garden in the valley. By Susu, you will be in charge of the myriad medicine garden as the medicine king. You will receive a 9th grade demon coin salary of 1,000 demon coins and a medicine king salary of 5,000 demon coins. You will be bestowed with the Shunnong's paradise map. The great use of spiritual herbs could not be ignored. Whether it was brewing wine or doing other things, spiritual herbs were the most important. Back then, Bai Susu was bestowed with the Book of Medicine, which recorded the illustrations of countless spiritual herbs. Moreover, her personality was not suitable for fighting and killing. Planting spiritual herbs was also something she liked very much. In order for the myriad medicine garden to be truly established, Di Shitian even bestowed the Shunnong's paradise map that he had won from the Dragon Girl as the most important treasure of the myriad medicine garden. Who will be bestowed with the title of Sage. He will lead all the strategists to plan for the myriad demon valley. During wartime, he can follow the army as the think tank. He can give advice and suggestions. Those with great wisdom can enter. Di Shitian continued to spit out orders. Each order could be said to have made the best use of everything. Each of their functions were planned out one by one. Suddenly, a rough structure was temporarily revealed. In the blink of an eye, another month had passed. The group of demons in the valley had already taken their own posts. Those who entered the 4 major armies, the wine-making department, and the spirit medicine garden had all chosen what they wanted to do and what they wanted to do. With the 4 major armies as the combat system, the spirit medicine garden, and the wine-making department as the framework, the myriad demon valley finally began to operate. Those who brewed wine, those who planted spiritual herbs, those who planted spiritual herbs, and those who searched for spiritual herbs. And so on. They all knew what they needed to do and what they needed to do. Moreover, under Di Shitian's orders, Rat Big sent tens of millions of rats out of the southern wilderness to search for the location of various mineral veins. Once they found them, a large number of rats would immediately swarm over and begin to excavate the mineral veins from underground. They would directly transport all kinds of spiritual ores from underground to the myriad demon valley. The rat clan was indeed an expert in digging holes and the ancestors of digging. They were very familiar with excavating mineral deposits and were extremely efficient. Who temporarily took charge of the 7 orifices exquisite pot and constantly led a large number of people to start refining divine crystals. The first things he refined were the demon coins and demon cards. These were the foundation of circulation and the motivation of the group of demons. The demon coins were the size of gold coins and were exceptionally exquisite. There were 2 sides. One side was Di Shitian's black tiger pattern, and the other side was the image of a majestic divine city. That was the appearance of the future myriad demon city. One was 1 demon coin. A pagoda was once again erected in the valley. This was not the Incheon pagoda, but the real exquisite creation pagoda. If one wanted to enter it to cultivate and enjoy the 10-fold or 50-fold cultivation speed after reversing time and space, one would first need demon coins. In the first level, one would need to pay 10 demon coins for a day of cultivation in the outside world. In the second level, one would need to pay 50 demon coins to enter. If one wanted to enjoy the unique cultivation speed, all of them were linked to demon coins. This made the group of demons in the valley go completely crazy. They worked even harder to do their jobs. After that, they also looked around for other spiritual materials or spiritual herbs. These could be exchanged for demon coins. Under Old Fox's supervision, divine crystals were being refined one after another. The construction work of the myriad demon city was almost ready. It could start at any time. At this moment, Di Shitian was in the third level of the exquisite creation pagoda. In front of him, there was a crystal divine tablet that was more than 10 feet tall. On the tablet, countless mysterious seal scripts were circulating. Specks of starlight flickered. It contained an endless mysterious aura. God Sealing Tablet. This was the God Sealing Tablet that was obtained in the Tongtian Tower back then. In the tablet, the most precious treasure of the demon clan, the demon transformation pool, was sealed. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 465. Ming, can you break the divine sealing tablet this time and take out the flower demon pool sealed inside? It's up to you. In front of Sakra's eyes was a long monolith that was sparkling and translucent like a crystal. Although it was said that this monolith's predecessor was an imitation of the ancient Star Emperor's unique treasure, the stellar demon sealing monolith. However, the one who made it was the divine sealing supremacy. What kind of overlord was the overlord of the ancient times? He was an overlord who was comparable to a heavenly monster and had cultivated the indestructible body. He was second only to the most powerful overlords. In this world, the overall level could be divided into demon race, spirit beast, spirit monster, demon beast, demon, demon core first transformation to third transformation, demon king, demon core fourth transformation to sixth transformation, great demon, demon core seventh transformation to ninth transformation, demon saint, heaven demon, ancient giant, demon god, unparalleled powerhouse. Cultivators, chi refinement, foundation establishment, core formation, nascent soul, comparable to a monster's inner core, astral projection, first transformation monster core, soul branching, second transformation monster core, combination, third transformation monster core, tribulation passing, fourth transformation monster core, ascension, fifth transformation monster core, earth deity, sixth transformation monster core, sky immortal, seventh transformation monster core, immortal king. Eighth transformation monster core, immortal lord, ninth transformation monster core, immortal lord, ancient overlords, ancestral god, unparalleled overlords. Among them, immortal lords were usually called perfected lords and immortal emperors were called supremacies. Monster gods and ancestral gods were already above all living beings. They almost wouldn't die unless they encountered special circumstances. Time couldn't wear down their bodies and divine souls. They were existences that truly stood at the top of the world. Therefore, one could imagine that even though the divine sealing supremacy wasn't a powerful overlord, as long as a powerful overlord didn't appear in the world, the supremacies were the most powerful beings in the world. Once one became such an existence, even a finger would be able to poke a hole in the sky. Killing a monster like Di Shitian was really like killing an ant. He could kill him with a single finger. Back then, in the Tower of Babel, if it wasn't for the fact that it was just a wisp of venerable divine seal's soul, even the blood altar might not have been able to withstand it, let alone the current eye of heavenly punishment divine seal that sucked him into nether prison. Even if he was sucked in, he could break the nether prison with one hand. It was impossible to suppress him. If one were to ask, the God-sealing tablet refined by such an expert, even if it was just an imitation of the ancient Star Emperor's treasure, it would still be extremely powerful. Otherwise, how could it suppress and seal the demon transformation pool? Therefore, even though Ming said that he could break the restriction and transform this bullshit heavenly crystal God-sealing tablet into the real star-sealing devil-sealing tablet, Ming was unable to do so. However, he still couldn't help but ask. Madman Di, don't worry. Back then, my master, the Emperor of the Underworld, and the Emperor of the Stars were good friends. They often gathered together to discuss the Tao. If it weren't for some unforeseen circumstances back then, she would have already become my mistress. Do you think I don't understand the starry devil seal steely? If he wanted to refine it, he might not have the ability to do so. However, if he wanted to break this incomplete demon sealing tombstone, he would have to do so. It's not difficult at all. Ming was extremely proud. He was beaming with joy in the nether prison. His dragon whiskers danced wantonly as he shouted confidently, "The key to the starry devil seal steely lies in the stars. It contains the star world in a steely. The 5-element star force, the Big Dipper, and the crepe myrtle constellation. All the star forces are fused into one. Only the great heavenly star restriction can perfectly fuse the countless star forces together. Collecting the star force in the heavenly star restriction and turning it into a divine restriction, then containing the endless star force, can condense the real starry devil seal steely." Back then, the Emperor of the Stars used the starry devil seal steely to the extreme and evolved the minor heavenly star world. The complete set of starry devil seal steelies has a total of 365 pieces. When used at the same time, it can evolve the great heavenly star world. TSK. Back then, it sealed 100 million demon gods at once. That kind of earth-shattering feat shocked the ancient times. What demon gods? Sakura was also listening to these ancient matters with great interest. Suddenly, he caught a wisp of inexplicable information and hurriedly asked. Ming, who was originally in high spirits, couldn't help but chuckle, and she actually went silent for a short while before she said, "Madman Di, even though you've improved so quickly that it's rare in the world, there are some things that are far from being known to you. I'll absolutely not conceal all of this from you once you possess the strength to know about it. The most important thing for you now is to improve your strength as much as possible." Di Shitian fell silent when he heard this. He clearly sensed that Ming was concealing the truth from him. However, he was able to discern that Ming just didn't want him to be too vexed. He didn't blame Ming, and he just clenched his fists in secret and made a firm resolution. Strength. I must become an expert in this world. After he made a firm resolution in his heart, he smiled indifferently and changed the topic. How should I deal with the Godsbane steely? TSK. Perhaps it isn't easy for others, but it truly has too many flaws for me who's capable of anything. Ming shouted, "The Stellar Seal Steely's origin is the Stellar Seal Steely's heavenly cycle restriction. With the Stellar Seal formation as a guide, this venerable sealer didn't obtain the complete stellar seal formation at all. It's just an incomplete divine restriction, yet he turned it into this bullshit sky crystal Godsbane steely." His voice was filled with disdain. "Madman Di, watch carefully. I'll activate the incomplete stellar seal steely in a while, and I'll break open this incomplete restriction and return it to its most primitive star energy. Then, I'll reconstruct the complete stellar seal formation and return it to its origin. At the moment I break open the restriction, pay attention and immediately place a strand of your origin spirit into the steely. Follow me to reconstruct the divine restriction. Once it returns to its origin, you'll become the new owner of this steely." Ming stretched out his dragon claw and stroked his dragon beard. Even though his tone was filled with disdain, his expression was still rather solemn. Obviously, breaking the restriction wasn't as easy as he'd said. Whoosh! As he spoke, he saw a blood-red dragon claw emerge from the purple mark between Di Shitian's brows. The dragon claw appeared in front of the Godsbane steely, and a few of its dragon claws danced nimbly. It rapidly changed its finger technique, leaving behind countless afterimages. In an instant, a dazzling ball of starlight condensed on the dragon claw. The star energy quickly turned into mysterious star talismans following Ming's hand seals. They emitted the light of the stars and danced around the dragon claw spiritually. Rumble. The hand seals were extremely mysterious. Di Shitian tried his best to look at them, but after looking at them for a while, he felt dizzy. After looking at them, he couldn't remember them and forgot them in the blink of an eye. It was very strange. A moment later, a palm-sized divine stele appeared in front of the dragon claw, surrounded by specks of starlight. This divine stele was very similar to the god-sealing stele. However, it was many times smaller. On its surface, stars flickered. It was unusually gorgeous and dreamy. Countless talismans flickered inside. When this small divine stele was formed, the space around it distorted. It was as if one could see the shadows of countless stars on it. It was as if they could see a world of stars. Go! Ming shouted. The divine stele shone with starlight and pressed into the Godsbane stele. When it came into contact, the divine stele seemed to be illusory and entered the stele without any resistance. With me controlling the Godsbane stele's most authentic hand seals, a mere broken treasure will obediently submit to my control. Open. He was trying to forcibly control the Godsbane stele in front of him. Boom. The Godsbane stele trembled violently, and a mysterious world suddenly appeared in the stele. Inside, dazzling stars were constantly moving in a mysterious orbit. It was as if the stars contained boundless truths and mysteries of heaven and earth as they revolved. A world of stars appeared in the stele. 1 or 2, 3, 3, 3, 6. There were only 306 stars in the stele's world of stars. When these stars revolved, they would occasionally pause and jerk. This caused the world of stars to become slightly unstable, as if it would collapse at any moment. TSK 365 stars in the universe. This is the origin of the Godsbane stele. There should be 365 stars before it can truly evolve into a world of stars. It can contain the power of millions of stars. There are only 306 stars here, and 59 are incomplete. Flaws. There are flaws everywhere. In the eyes of others, it might not be a big deal. Just this world of stars before them was sufficient to shock countless people. It might even be able to become an expert amongst the ancient overlords. However, in the eyes of Ming, it was practically filled with flaws. 365 pieces were indispensable to begin with. If one was missing, then there would be flaws, let alone when 59 pieces were missing. Break. Ming. Ming roared. A huge divine stele appeared in the world of stars in the stele. It emitted a powerful aura and suddenly swept through the starry sky. It looked like a casual movement, but it exploded with unimaginable power. The revolving heavenly cycle of stars suddenly came to a halt. It instantly disrupted the orbits of the stars. It also destroyed the barely functioning formation. There were so many flaws that in Ming's eyes, they couldn't even withstand a single blow. However, the revolving stars suddenly stopped, and the entire star space shook violently. With a loud boom, large patches of stars collapsed and were annihilated. The collapse happened with incredible speed. In the blink of an eye, it spread to the entire world. In a few breaths of time, the minor world collapsed. It was completely destroyed, transforming into pure, primitive star power. Emperor Lunatic, hurry. Drip a drop of blood on it and imprint your nascent divinity into the stele. Splurt. Sakra didn't hesitate. He waved his hand and cut open a wound on his middle finger. A stream of blood shot out and landed on the god-sealing tablet. He didn't dare to be negligent at all. In his eyes, the crystal tablet that was as perfect as a crystal without a single flaw actually had cracks appearing on its surface. These cracks began to spread rapidly after the world of stars in the stele collapsed. There were more and more cracks, spreading in all directions like a spiderweb. Chidyen has organized an annual voting. Those who have votes, please help us. Of course, the votes are free, those who spend money don't need to participate. Hee hee. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidyen.com to read more chapters. Support the author, Support the original reading. Chapter 466. There was no doubt that if these cracks were allowed to spread everywhere, the divine stele would really shatter on the spot. What Dark did was basically destroying the origin of the divine stele. If the origin was destroyed, how could the divine stele fuse the power of thousands of stars into the stele? The result of the explosion would be the divine stele shattering. Speaking of which, the divine seal stele wasn't so easily destroyed. If a venerable god sealer was controlling it personally, with Dark's current strength, even if he knew the flaws, he wouldn't have the strength to destroy it. If he didn't know how to control the seals of the divine seal stele, he wouldn't have been able to enter the small star world inside the stele. Didn't the rock demon king use the lunar god-slaying finger outside the sky-split tower? It wasn't damaged in the slightest. It was obvious that if it wasn't for Ming, no one would be able to move the god-sealing tablet. He could only look at the stele and sigh. There was nothing he could do. The blood essence landed on the stele. It entered the stele at a speed visible to the naked eye. The moment the blood essence entered the stele, the spreading of the cracks on the stele suddenly stopped. At the same time, from the purple mark between Sakra's eyebrows, an illusory rank 4 black lotus flew out. In an instant, it charged into the god-sealing monument. It entered the monument without any resistance and appeared in the collapsed world within the monument. It spun and continuously swallowed the rich power of stars in the surroundings. Stars return to one, evolve the heavenly cycle stars, appear. A vast roar sounded from the stele. The divine stele that had caused the collapse of the stellar world appeared once again. In an instant, countless talismans flew out, emitting a powerful devouring force that swept through the entire stele. Immediately, the massive amount of stellar force that had dispersed after the collapse of the world was like a tidal wave, crazily surging toward the small divine stele. A vast amount of power of stars was absorbed into the small divine seal stele. All kinds of power of stars were absorbed into one without any restrictions. Moreover, after the divine seal stele devoured the power of stars, it also expanded violently. As it shook, it grew crazily and stood tall. It was as if it was splitting the world apart. Countless amounts of power of stars gathered. Just the pressure it emitted was enough to shock a great demon. Bang! When all the power of the stars had been devoured, the divine stele instantly burst open. With a loud bang, a new world was created within the stele. The collapse of the divine stele didn't completely dissipate. Instead, it turned into 365 resplendent stars. The instant these stars burst open, they appeared in various mysterious locations. In an instant, all the stars had a mysterious connection with each other. It began to move in a mysterious trajectory. Swish! Outside of the exquisite pagoda, in the endless starry sky, the power of countless stars was suddenly aroused. The vast power of the stars fell down on the continent, gathered together, and transformed into a pillar of starlight that connected the sky and the earth. A vast amount of star power was drawn down from the boundless starry sky. With a bang, it broke through the clouds and appeared in the sky above the southern barbarian. In an instant, it fell directly into the myriad demon valley, shrouding the exquisite pagoda in the center of the valley under the starlight column. The boundless power of the stars whizzed into the pagoda. At the same time, strands of astral power also seeped out and filled the valley. For a time, a wonderful scene appeared. Bathed in the power of the stars, the flowers and trees in the valley grew crazily at a speed visible to the naked eye, constantly greedily absorbing the huge amount of pure star power in the air. It should be known that the power of the stars was a very wonderful power in the world. After absorbing and refining it, it was purer and more abundant than absorbing the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. It could also help to temper the demonic chi in the body, purify the impurities in it, and strengthen the physical body. It could be said that there were many benefits. If one could cultivate under the power of the stars every day, the cultivation speed would be more than 10 times faster than usual. It could also make the demonic chi purer. However, the endless starry sky was too far away from the continent. Under normal circumstances, although there was starlight falling every night, The power of the stars in the starlight was pitifully little and couldn't be used for cultivation. Feeling the huge power of the stars in the Man Valley, all the demonic beasts began to operate their cultivation methods without hesitation, desperately absorbing the power of the stars in the air. However, compared to the light pillar, the power of the stars that permeated the air was like comparing an ant to Mount Tai. The difference was like comparing heaven and earth. A huge amount of star power was directly poured into the pagoda. As soon as it entered the pagoda, it immediately rushed into the stellar demon sealing stele that was standing in front of Di Shitian. It whistled and formed a beautiful vortex in the air above the stele. The consequence of this endless star power entering the stele was that a huge amount of star power quickly gathered in the small star world that was formed by the universal star Forbidden Land. In the blink of an eye, it filled the entire small star world. Rumble. The stars trembled, and a massive amount of star power gathered. In this small star world, stars were constantly evolving, and they revolved around the original 365 main stars in a mysterious orbit. Driving the star power, it constantly expanded and stabilized this starry sky. Stars were constantly appearing at a speed that was almost visible to the naked eye. Compared to the incomplete starry sky that he saw previously, it was like comparing heaven and earth. There was no comparison at all. In the starry sky, there were talismans formed by star power fluttering in the air and hiding in the void. TSK, how is it? Once the complete universal star Forbidden Land is formed, it can automatically evolve into a small star world. It draws in the star power in the endless starry sky and continuously evolves stars. Venus, Mercury, Jupiter, and so on. When all kinds of star power are gathered, they can evolve into different stars. The more stars there are, the more powerful the stellar demon sealing stele will be. This is a rare treasure in the world. Ming's voice actually carried a wisp of dense dispiritedness. Based on her appearance, she seemed extremely listless. Obviously, what she'd done earlier wasn't something that had been easy for her. In the starry sky inside the stele, a fourth-grade black lotus stood in the center, spinning and slowly absorbing the star power. The entire starry sky seemed to have an inexplicable connection with it. It was mysterious. It was Di Shitian's primordial spirit imprint. What a great stellar demon sealing stele! Di Shitian stood in front of the stele and stared at it. After returning to its origin, the stele's appearance did not change. It was still crystal clear like before. However, the crystal light on the stele had completely disappeared. It had become restrained, and countless mysterious star runes could be clearly seen on it. It was more simple and unadorned. If one looked closely, they seemed to be able to see the trajectories of countless stars moving in the stele. It was mysterious. Let me test its power. Di Shitian thought to himself. With a thought, he was about to activate the stellar demon sealing stele. However, as soon as he activated it, his expression changed. The royal true force in his body surged into the stele like a tidal wave. It seemed like it would consume a lot of true force just to activate it for a few breaths. He had only just activated it. If he really used it against an enemy, then... What a shocking consumption. Di Shitian immediately stopped and his gaze towards the demon-sealing tombstone became extremely deep as he muttered to himself, I can feel that the tombstone contains a heaven-shaking and earth-shattering power. However, to use this treasure against the enemy, the consumption of true power would be shockingly large. With my cultivation, I can only use it once or twice before using up all of my true force. However, if I use the stellar demon sealing stele, even a great demon would not be able to face it head-on. It was obviously not suitable to use it in a head-on battle, but it would be good to use it as an assassin. This thing consumed too much true force. Of course, Di Shitian did not intend to use the stellar demon sealing stele against an enemy. This stele had great uses. He had long planned to use it. Divine crystals were the materials used to build the demon city. Each one was the size of a brick. However, even in the mortal world, building a city wall required mud and glutinous rice to make the bricks stick together tightly. In order to build a divine city that had existed since time immemorial, mud could not be ordinary. Originally, He had planned to find the legendary living soil of the 9 heavens. However, the living soil of the 9 heavens was a spiritual soil born from the primordial chaos. How could it be easy to find? He could only think about it later. Therefore, he thought of a second method. He would use the stellar demon sealing stele to draw in the power of the stars and use it to refine the divine crystals into a complete body without the slightest gap. Day after day, year after year, even the divine crystals would contain the power of the stars. That way, with the guidance of the stars, it would not be difficult to float above the clouds. He would use the city as a treasure to refine it. Dai Shitian also wanted to promote the city in China and make it a divine nation in the hearts of countless people. Naturally, the power of faith would be integrated into the city. The city's power would continue to grow day by day. TSK, crazy emperor, hurry up and have your subordinates excavate the veins and find the materials to refine the divine crystals. The outside world is not suitable for building the city, so we can move the site to the Linglong Treasure Pagoda. Time can be reversed here, and time can be increased by 100 times. The casting can be much faster. Even I am beginning to look forward to what it will be like when the city is completed. Nether also cried out in anticipation. It was the pinnacle of the heavenly secret myriad pivot painting. It was hard not to look forward to it. Dai Shitian shook his head slightly and said, although the rat clan is good at digging, all the tens of millions of them have been spread out. There are only 8 spiritual veins found in the vicinity for the time being. This has already made the myriad demon valley operate at full capacity. It can't be faster unless more demons are born. During this period of time, the veins they found were 2 copper concentrates, one of which was a large vein, 3 iron concentrates, 2 large veins, jade veins, and Shenming crystal veins. It was very laborious to mine. Although the mining was not slow, all the resources had been used to the limit. There were no more people in the valley to divide. Now, they could refine about 100,000 demon coins and 5,000 high-grade divine crystals every day. Among them, Dai Shitian asked Hu and the others to stop after they refined 100 million demon coins. They would refine the divine crystals with all their strength. Now, they could start to build the city. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. I support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 467. TSK. Needless to say, you really do possess great fortune. You were even able to obtain the jade slip to refine divine crystals. Otherwise, merely these materials that aren't part of the 5 elements would be sufficient to make peerless experts shrink back. I heard my master say that in every era, there will be a group of protagonists who are protected by the providence of heaven and earth. They are loved by heaven and earth and blessed by fate. Whatever they want, they can get it in the end. They become immortal and indestructible. In ancient times, the master of fate, the demon lord, and the master of space were all the favorites of the ancient times. They were blessed by the providence of heaven and earth and became the masters of the tomb of the god of sin. They finally transcended and became immortal. In my opinion, maybe you will be the protagonist of this era. Ming said seriously, every time heaven and earth changes, there will be countless peerless geniuses. I have a feeling that in the future, you may have the chance to surpass my master, the emperor of the underworld, and climb to the peak of the peak and become an immortal existence. When heaven and earth decay, I will not be immortal. When heaven and earth perish, I will survive alone. Dai Shitian's mind was shaken, and he thought to himself, am I really the protagonist of this era like Ming said? The protagonist who has the providence of heaven and earth? Or am I reborn and changed the providence of heaven? He thought to himself, but couldn't come up with an answer. He didn't want to add more trouble to this problem, so he said casually, forget it. Whether I am the protagonist of Providence or the favorite of heaven and earth, I am me. I am still Dai Shitian. Thinking of this, he naturally broke a shackle in his heart. Looking at the starry demon sealing stele in front of him, he pondered for a moment and said, the manpower in the myriad demon valley is still a little weak compared to the casting of the ancient god city. A mere million people won't help at all. The project of casting the demon city is too vast. Fortunately, the starry demon sealing stele has returned to its origin, and I can release the demon transformation pool sealed in the stele at any time. I believe that the manpower should be able to solve this problem. The casting of the demon city is urgent. Di Shitian had merged his soul into the stele and refined it with his blood essence. Although he could not use it as he wished, he had a thorough understanding of the situation in the stele. Shockingly, the demon transformation pool was suppressed within the stele by the energy of a myriad of stars. When Nether had broken open the world of stars, it had shown signs of breaking free from the stele. The reason why countless cracks had appeared on the stele was actually because it was struggling to break free from its seal. Now, he was still being suppressed. As long as he wanted to, he could take the entire demon transformation pool out of the stele with a single thought. With the demon transformation pool, it was even more miraculous and useful than the Sky Thunder platform and the Purple Thunder Rain. Whether it was animals, flowers, or trees, if they were sent into the pool, they would completely transform in a short period of time. They would shed their mortal bodies and become demons. When a spirit beast took form, it would be an ordinary flower, tree, bird, or beast. After it took form, it would have the cultivation of a peak spirit beast. Even his aptitude could be improved. As long as it existed, it would be able to continuously spawn large numbers of monsters. I just don't know how many more monsters the demon transformation pool can support now. Di Shitian muttered to himself. The power of the demon transformation pool was not innate. Every time it created a monster, it would consume its own power. Once it was used up, it would not be able to create any more monsters. At that time, he would have to find a large number of corpses for it to absorb. Lunatic Di, hurry up and take out the Myriad Calamity Ancient diagram. This is the membrane you used to create the demon city. After it is activated, use the Stellar Devil Seal tablet to suppress and temper it. Fuse your primordial spirit with the membrane and make it your natal treasure. Connect them together. In the future, you will be able to control the demon city as you wish. This demon city cannot be controlled by anyone else. Only you can control it, Ming said solemnly. Extremely serious. Indeed, when the demon city was truly completed, it would definitely be the most powerful ancient city in the world. If such an ancient city were to be controlled, it would be like the Stellar Devil Seal tablet now. It would be impossible to use it at all. Only with a natal treasure could one use it as they wished. Do as they wished. This was completely necessary. Well said. Di Shitian pondered and nodded. Light flashed in his hand, and he took out a simple ancient scroll. He opened it, and various ancient city drawings appeared in front of him. They flashed by continuously. The cave abode, the floating island, and the ancient city were all different, but they all exuded a unique aura in the paintings. It showed how extraordinary they were. In the blink of an eye, they were so bright that it was difficult to take in. Come out. Indra's gaze was fixed on the illusory divine city above the 9 heavens. Just like that, he stretched out his right hand and reached into the ancient scroll. Strangely enough, when his hand touched the ancient scroll, it was as if he had touched water. Countless ripples appeared on the surface of the ancient scroll. When he stretched his hand into the ancient scroll, his hand disappeared. It was very strange. In the picture, a giant hand grabbed the unparalleled divine city and squeezed it out. Whoosh. In the blink of an eye, when Di Shitian took out his hand again, there was actually an ancient map shrouded in dense chi in his hand. Rather than calling it an ancient map, it would be better to call it an oval-shaped membrane. Endless mysterious seal characters flickered on it, exuding a mysterious aura, and a mysterious yellow light circulated around it. Membrane of heaven and earth. Di Shitian looked at the membrane in his hand with a serious expression, and secretly marveled that the divine predictor of the past was indeed a rare genius in the world. Why was it that every time an immortal mansion, a floating island, or even an ancient city was built according to the blueprints in the myriad pivot diagram, there would be one less blueprint in the diagram? Although one could see the divine appearance of the blueprint in the future, It was impossible to build a second immortal mansion that was exactly the same as the original. It was because the blueprint was no ordinary object. The blueprint was made of the membrane of heaven and earth. This membrane of heaven and earth was the structural hub of the immortal mansion and divine city. When it was spread out, it was a model of a divine city. However, the inside of this model was illusory and needed to be filled with various materials so that the membrane of heaven and earth would fuse with the various materials and truly materialize and become real. The various pivots of the membrane of heaven and earth would fuse with the materials in an instant. What was the so-called membrane of heaven and earth? It was a true treasure. Legend had it that those experts with divine abilities would sometimes cross the endless starry sky and the 9 heavens to enter the world of chaos outside the source continent. In the chaos, they would rely on the source continent to open up various minor worlds, or perhaps the chaos would evolve and open up minor worlds of its own. The creation of these minor kiliocosms was the separation of a small piece of chaos from the entire chaos world. During the evolution, the chaos chi would evolve into an embryonic membrane to protect the minor kiliocosm. Only when the minor kiliocosm was fully developed would the chaos chi enter the chaos world, absorb the chi of the chaos world at its birth, and fuse them together to form an embryonic membrane. This membrane was extremely tough and had amazing defensive power. It was the best material for refining defensive treasures. He didn't expect that the drawings in the Tianji Wanshu diagram that Tianji Zi made were all made of heaven and earth membrane. It was just that there was a difference in the amount of heaven and earth membrane used in the ancient diagram in the hands of Sakura. There was definitely more than one layer of heaven and earth membrane used in it. Upon closer inspection, one would find that what was in his hand was actually an ancient city that had been shrunk countless times. The various buildings in the ancient city were vivid and lifelike, and there were countless mysterious pivots and restrictions that crisscrossed within. At a glance, one could see that it was extraordinary. This diagram was the Myriad Calamity ancient diagram. The ancient city that was built with this diagram had incomparably strong defensive power. This defensive power was innate, and was given by the membrane of heaven and earth. Therefore, there was also the meaning of indestructibility in it. Myriad Calamity ancient diagram, eternal immortality, open. Di Shitian appeared in the first level of the pagoda. The world in the pagoda was vast and boundless. At a glance, there was boundless grassland everywhere. With a light shout, he threw the ancient diagram in his hand into the air. Boom! Boom! Suddenly, a lifelike divine city burst out with a mysterious yellow light and rapidly expanded. In the blink of an eye, it had expanded to the point where it covered the sky and fell to the ground with a loud bang. At a glance, it was an unprecedented divine city. The size of the divine city was comparable to the size of Earth in his previous life. It was so vast and spacious that it could accommodate 10 billion demons without feeling the slightest bit cramped. There were 4 illusory heavenly gates around the ancient city. Those gates were used to place the 4 heavenly gates. Once the heavenly gates were placed on them, they would naturally merge with the entire ancient city. The membrane of heaven and earth. The ancient city was a world of its own. In the city, there was a palace. It was a place for meetings and residences. Its aura made it feel like the center of heaven and earth. However, although the divine city was lifelike, it was extremely illusory and did not seem real. It needed to be filled with various materials and cast. With the divine city created by the Myriad Calamity ancient diagram, it would be much easier to cast it. However, the scale of the project was also unimaginable. The size of the entire ancient city was comparable to the size of Earth in his previous life. To be able to accommodate 10 billion demons and live in it, it would take an unimaginable amount of heavenly materials and earthly treasures, as well as an unimaginable amount of incense and willpower. It was absolutely impossible to build it in a short time. Starry Devil Seal Tablet. He pointed at the tablet in front of him. Immediately, the tablet flew up and rushed toward the ancient city. With a loud bang, it fell from the sky and stood in the palace of the ancient city. As soon as the Devil Seal Tablet landed, it merged with the embryonic membrane of heaven and earth. It was as if the tablet had grown out of the city. Rich power of the stars descended from the sky and landed on the Devil Seal tablet. Then, it surged out of the tablet and covered the entire ancient city. The entire ancient city was shrouded in a halo of starlight. Primordial spirit brand. Another black lotus flew out of Di Shutien's body and merged with the embryonic membrane of heaven and earth. At the same time, he felt a strange feeling in his heart. It was as if he had become one with the ancient city. Then, he took out the demon transformation pool from the Devil Seal tablet and merged it with the embryonic membrane of heaven and earth. It became a part of the ancient city. He named it the Jade Pool. The demon transformation pool was something Di Shutien had tricked the Rock Demon King and the others into giving him the demon transformation pool. It was the most precious treasure of the entire demon race. If people knew that he could take it out, no, he had already taken it out, something unexpected might happen. He did not want to see a gap between him and Silver Hair and the others. However, since he had taken it out, he would be letting himself down if he did not use it. Fortunately, whether it was the Demon Rock King or Silver Hair, none of them had seen the demon transformation pool with their own eyes. Now that it had merged with the demon city and become part of this unparalleled ancient city, it was named the Yarokai Pool. Around the Yarokai Pool, there was a palace built and connected to the treasure hall. As long as he did not say anything, even if others suspected, they would not be able to confirm it. The ancient city was above the 9 heavens. The palace could be called the Lingxiao Palace. Hurry up, hurry up. I'm carrying a 300-year-old ancient tree. I can get 10 demon coins for this one. That's nothing. I caught 10 seeker deer from outside. The mission on the Xianhuang board said that a 100-year-old ancient tree can be exchanged for 10 demon coins. Each of the strong birds and beasts can be exchanged for 2 demon coins. My 10 seeker deer can be exchanged for 20 demon coins. I've heard that the ancient trees, birds, and beasts that were sent into the pagoda and turned out to be demons like us, he said. These are all our brothers and sisters in the future. The king's divine power is really boundless. That's nothing. Don't you know that our king wants to build a majestic city for us? Don't you see that our brothers from the Rat clan are doing their best to excavate the mines? They're sending huge amounts of spiritual ores into the valley. Those ores are all used to build our city. I know that too. I've seen it with my own eyes. That demon city is really big. It's inside the pagoda. Lord Hu and the others are constantly helping to build the city. In the future, we can all live in it. In the Myriad Demon Valley, a large number of demons were lined up in a long line in front of the huge pagoda. These demons were all carrying strange things in front of them. For example, they were leading a group of animals, holding a few birds, carrying a tall ancient tree on their shoulders, and so on. They were all different. As they lined up, they were discussing spiritedly. They were all talking about the recent events and changes in the valley. When they talked about Di Shutian, almost every demon could not help but show a look of respect and worship on their faces. Ever since Di Shutian took charge of the Myriad Demon Valley, the entire valley changed almost every day. Every demon would be able to find their own place in the valley. They worked hard to do their own things. What shocked and respected the most was that half a month ago, the king gathered all the small demons in the valley who had not condensed their inner cores and transformed into human forms. He brought them into the pagoda. In just a few hours, when they came out, the group of demons that had yet to transform had all transformed and gained the ability to transform. Although their strength did not increase much, they could transform into human forms like other clansmen who had condensed their inner cores. In one day, all the demons in the valley transformed. The demons were shocked. They respected and yearned for Di Shutian's heaven-defying methods from the bottom of their hearts. Next, they built an ancient city that belonged to the demon race. In the pagoda, the vast image of the Myriad Demon City shocked all the demons at first sight. They were all incomparably shocked by the ancient city. If that vast and majestic ancient city could really be built, it would definitely be an unprecedented legend since ancient times. When they realized that it was the demon city they would live in the future, Hu, Jin Xian, and even Kai Hua, all the demons could not help but go completely crazy. Their eyes were red as they howled. Build. We must build it. Even if we have to sell everything, we must build this unparalleled ancient city. This sentence was almost the voice of all the demons. On the spot, Hu and the others poured all their energy into building the city. Cubes of divine crystals were constantly refined, and they were all high-grade divine crystals that had been repeatedly refined. These divine crystals were constantly put into the myriad calamity ancient diagram and the embryonic membrane of heaven and earth, making the illusory ancient city become real little by little. The Xianhuang list was a list made by Di Shitian to release all kinds of tasks, so that the demons in the valley could rely on it to complete the tasks and obtain demon coins. These birds, beasts, flowers, and trees were naturally put into the flower demon pool. No, it should be called the jade pool now. Bathing in the water of the jade pool, they transformed into demons. Although Di Shitian could do these things by himself, he was a king. How could he do everything by himself? These things were handed over to the demons in the valley. First, there were many demons, so they could search more extensively. Second, they could spread the demon coins, so there was a way for them to spread out. So that the demon coins could be truly integrated into the lives of all the people. In just a few months, in the hearts of the demons, Di Shitian had almost risen to the status of a god. Every time they thought of him, their eyes would show a fanatical expression. His position in their hearts was unshakable. In the pavilion under the waterfall in the valley, the melodious and lingering sound of the zither floated around. The sound of the zither was lingering and sad. In the sound of the zither, it seemed to be telling a sad and touching story. It led people to become saints, and it broke people to tears. Their mood was constantly fluctuating with the rise and fall of the zither sound. Outside the pavilion, birds came over after hearing the sound of the zither. They stood there and did not leave. Tears fell from their eyes, and they wailed. In the pavilion, Di Shitian and Chen Shi. Chen Shi quietly listened to the beautiful zither sound that was rarely seen in the world. The expression on his face also changed with the zither sound. After a long time, the song blessing of Liang came to a leisurely stop. Husband, are you really going to go alone? In the melodious sound of the zither, Chen Shi raised his unparalleled face, looked seriously at Di Shitian's eyes, and suddenly said, yes. His hands gently pressed on the strings, stopping the sound of the zither. A flash of determination flashed across his face. He nodded and said, Shi, do you know that it has been nearly 20 years since I first came to the southern wilderness? In these more than 10 years, my heart has been tortured like a knife almost day and night. What's painful is not the body, but the heart. He stood up and looked up at the void, as if he could see the distant past. Back then, my mother, brother, and sister were all taken away by the Thousand Beasts sect. I saw them being taken away with my own eyes. In his voice, there was a strong sense of self-blame and hatred. That kind of hatred could not be washed away even with all the water in the 3 rivers. That scene back then was simply unforgettable. He would not forget it until he died. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 468. At that moment, he had truly become one with this world, and it was also the moment he truly experienced familial love. At that time, when the white tiger was caught in the big net, it was still letting out sorrowful cries. He, who was hiding at the side, understood the white tiger's words. It was telling him to leave quickly and not come out. Every scene at that time was so deeply engraved in his mind. When he didn't have the strength, he could endure it and silently endure it. Now, he realized that he could no longer endure that kind of pain. He couldn't imagine what kind of unimaginable things his mother and little brother would have to go through in the Thousand Beasts sect, which specialized in selling all kinds of spiritual beasts. His sister, Ling was a living example. During this period of time, Little White had already been given a real name by Di Shitian. She followed his surname, Di, and was named Di Ling. She was also the princess of the group of demons. Moreover, at this moment, She had already taken the oblivion plate pill that she had bought in the exquisite pavilion and turned into a blazing fire cocoon. Whether she could successfully transform and break the shackles in her body would still have to wait for her to undergo the oblivion plate pill. After I leave, everything in the valley will be handed over to you. When Di Shitian looked at Chen Shi, his heart was filled with tenderness. He said, I will leave the exquisite pagoda in the valley and let you control it. And Little White, after taking the oblivion plate pill, it will take at least 81 days to complete the oblivion plate pill. I will leave it to you to take care of it. Suddenly, he waved his long sleeves and raised his head to look in the direction of the Thousand Beasts sect. His eyes flashed with a hint of determination. He said resolutely, this time, if I don't save my mother, I swear I will not return. Chen Shi elegantly and slowly stood up, walked in front of Di Shitian, and reached out to help him tidy his clothes. It was very gentle. I have a child. A gentle voice gently sounded in Di Shitian's ears. In those words, there was a touch of incomparable brilliance. What? The determination on Di Shitian's body disappeared in an instant. His body violently trembled, and he involuntarily cried out. A trace of shock appeared on his face, and his eyes suddenly opened like copper bells. She stared blankly at Chen Shi's beautiful face as if she didn't hear him clearly. I have your flesh and blood. Chen Shi gently stroked her abdomen, her face brimming with a kind of motherly radiance, and a strange kind of astonishing beauty bloomed. He looked into Di Shitian's eyes and said seriously and calmly. This, his mouth opened wide, and his eyes widened in an instant. There was only a dazed look on his face, as if he was unable to react. His heart was in turmoil as all kinds of feelings continuously surged out like a tide. At this moment, words were almost unable to describe his current feelings. Shock, surprise, bewilderment, and confusion. That kind of complicated feeling was simply hard to explain to outsiders. The state of mind that he had always been proud of was like a thin layer of paper, instantly being hit with countless holes. A myriad of emotions and pleasant surprises instantly drowned his entire mind. You don't like it? Chen Shi looked at Di Shitian's stunned expression and asked hesitantly. Slap. Di Shitian slapped his own face with a backhand. That clear and crisp sound directly spread 10 miles away. Hiss, intense pain transmitted into his body. It wasn't a dream, it was real. A thought suddenly appeared in his mind. I like it, why wouldn't I like it? Ha ha. Di Shitian looked at Chen Shi joyfully. His heart was filled with endless joy, and a kind of boundless ecstasy swelled in his mind. At the same time, all the joy turned into bursts of laughter. The laughter contained true power, and it caused the surrounding mountains to shake. The joy that he had never felt before completely drowned him in an instant. He stretched out his hand and pulled Chen Shi into his embrace, hugging her tightly. He couldn't stop laughing, and an indescribable feeling continued to rise in his body. Di Shitian, Di Shitian. I finally have a child, I'm finally going to be a father. Di Shitian, have a child. Surprise, surprise. Di Shitian never thought that Chen Shi would give him such a big surprise. Speaking of which, Di Shitian only really combined with Chen Shi when they were at Tiger Hill. After that, until now, Di Shitian was extremely polite to Chen Shi. As long as she didn't want to, he would never force her to sleep with him. This was a kind of guilt. At the same time, he also wanted to wait until after the construction of the Demon City, to hold a grand wedding that would attract everyone's attention, and officially live together as husband and wife. He didn't expect that just that one time actually caused Chen Shi to have his own blood in her stomach. This kind of sudden surprise, was really too sudden. The feeling of surprise and joy made him lose his composure on the spot. This was simply unimaginable in the past. The moment he heard this news, an inexplicable feeling surged into his heart. He couldn't help but completely abandon all the memories of his previous life at this moment. He had a more sense of existence towards this world in his heart. At this moment, in his heart, there was no longer any resistance towards this new world. He had truly integrated into it. I'm Di Shitian, I'm the king of demons. In this place, I have a wife, a confidant, and my own blood. This place is my root. In an instant, an inexplicable responsibility suddenly appeared on his shoulders. He hugged Chen Shi tightly and lowered his head to kiss her jade-like forehead affectionately. His right hand was placed on her belly, quietly feeling it. In her smooth belly without a trace of excess fat, a little life was being nurtured healthily. He could clearly feel the little fellow's strong heartbeat. As if feeling Di Shitian's existence, there was a trace of joyful aura from her arm to her heart. It's true. It's really my own blood. The feeling of being connected by blood made Di Shitian almost have an impulse to cry in an instant. His nose was sour, and the joy of being a father completely surrounded him. Chen Shi quietly leaned in Di Shitian's arms, quietly listening to the strong heartbeat. A faint warmth emerged from the bottom of her heart. She only felt that their hearts were closer than ever. After a long time, Di Shitian let go of her hand, held her slender and soft waist, and sat down in the pavilion. He looked at Chen Shi tenderly and said, "Thank you. Between you and me, there's no need to say thank you." Chen Shi's face glowed with motherly radiance. Leaning in Di Shitian's arms, she said, "During this period, I've thought about it very clearly. I want a child, our child." She knew very well why Di Shitian said thank you. This child was born after that night on Tiger Hill. If she didn't want it, the child in her belly would not have been born at all. He was thanking her for not aborting the child, because she had enough reasons to do so. "I won't tie you down with a child." Chen Shi looked seriously into Di Shitian's eyes and said, "Your mother is also my mother. Mother gave us a body and gave us life. Whether it's as a wife or a son, I have no reason to stop you. As long as it's your decision, I won't stop you in any way. But I hope you can think of me and the child in my belly when you're in a life-and-death situation. I don't want our child to be fatherless in the future." Di Shitian didn't say anything. He just hugged that perfect and flawless body tightly and looked into the void. There seemed to be some kind of indescribable firmness in his deep eyes. 3 months later, Di Shitian left southern barbarian land alone. Originally, she had planned to leave 3 months ago because Chen Shi and the unborn child had accompanied her in the valley for 3 months. Every day, they were tender and sweet, and their relationship had reached an unimaginable level. Because of their blood and bones, their hearts were closer than ever. Even the night before they left. Naturally, they slept together. "Wait for me." Di Shitian left southern barbarian land and stood on a mountain peak for a long time. Looking at southern barbarian land, he said in a deep voice, "Even if the Thousand Beasts sect is really a mountain of knives and a sea of fire, this time I'll still cut a bloody path. Whoever blocks me, I'll kill them. If God blocks me, I'll kill God. If Buddha blocks me, I'll kill Buddha." His expression was replaced by a kind of indifference again. A cold light flashed in his eyes. A trace of hostility flashed by. Oh. Although the tiger soul behind him was in its scabbard, it could feel Di Shitian's mood and also let out a series of tiger roars. The feeling of being connected by blood was extremely mysterious. "Thousand Beasts sect, it's time to settle the score between us." As soon as he finished speaking, Di Shitian rode on the divine light and broke through the sky toward the extreme west of the purple gold continent. The divine light flashed in midair like a meteor flying down. It was so fast that ordinary people would only think that it was a meteor flying by. They didn't seem to know that this was a divine light that surpassed the secular world. 3 months was more than enough time for him to explain everything to his subordinates. Chen Shi was in charge of the valley. In addition, all the demons had been reorganized. There were rules for all kinds of things. After condensing their inner cores, they could choose to join the 4 major armies or find other things to do. Now, almost every demon had a strong vitality on them. All kinds of things, cultivation, spirit wine, cultivation methods, magic tools, magic treasures, and so on, were all linked to demon coins. All the demons began to work hard for demon coins. Everyone had their own goals. If they wanted to learn a stronger cultivation method, they would work hard to earn demon coins. With a goal to strive for and a heart to improve, everywhere in the valley was full of vitality. There was also the 1,000-demon city. The matter of building the city was carried out with great enthusiasm. Every day, a large number of all kinds of spiritual materials were transported into the exquisite pagoda and refined into divine crystals by the 7 orifices exquisite pot to be used to cook the city. Every time they saw the illusory ancient city become real bit by bit under their efforts, the demons felt the blood in their bodies boiling with endless fighting spirit. Every day, after the 4 major armies trained, they went out to search for mineral resources. Every one of them treated the ancient city that was being built as an eternal holy land in their hearts. There was no doubt that for the ancient city, they would not hesitate to give up their lives. They were all immersed in the majestic prospects described by Di Shitian. Di Shitian had predicted, if there were enough materials and incense, it would take at least 200 to 300 years to build the ancient city that was comparable to the size of Earth. This was only the foundation. As for the natural spiritual treasures, it was not something that the demons could do. In the Blood Cloud sect. Waves of mournful screams rang out continuously, shaking the 9 heavens. There were more than 10,000 disciples in the entire sect. At this moment, in the sect, a blood shadow was drifting around like a ghost, flashing and passing through people. Immediately, the person who was passed through by the blood shadow was like a mummy. In an instant, all the flesh and blood of the person was devoured, leaving only a human skin. Even the human skin turned into a wisp of blood in an instant. In the wisp of blood, there were souls bound on it, letting out miserable screams. This blood shadow was drifting around like a ghost. No matter if it was a magic treasure or a variety of spells, it was difficult to touch it. Even if it touched it, it would pass through like a shadow. It was unable to hurt it at all. Amidst countless terrified screams, the blood shadow moved faster and faster. Under the blood shadow, a large number of disciples had their flesh and blood devoured like grass. Even the human skin turned into wisps of blood, binding their souls. It could be said to be evil to the extreme. Yinyi, what are you doing? They are all your fellow disciples, seniors of the sect. How can you kill them? A beautiful middle-aged woman shouted at the blood shadow in fear. What do you know about soft-heartedness? Standing in mid-air, the middle-aged man dressed in blood robes scolded the beautiful woman, as long as Yinyi can become stronger, a mere blood cloud sect is nothing. Yinyi is extremely lucky to have obtained the inheritance of the Blood God Sutra. A supreme expert will finally appear in my blood clan. Kill. 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 Kill as much as you want. The more you kill, the stronger you will be. The blood demon laughed wildly, his laughter shaking the entire blood cloud sect. Fart. Just as the blood demon was laughing wildly, the blood shadow that was pouncing towards the disciples suddenly turned and passed through the blood demon's body like lightning. The blood demon's laughter came to a halt, his eyes filled with disbelief. He extended his finger and pointed at the blood shadow that stopped in front of him. After the blood shadow stopped, its appearance could be clearly seen. On that incomparably handsome face, there was a deep evil aura, bringing with it an evil charm. Who else could it be but Xue Yini, who had lost his physical body to Di Shitian and was beaten until only a wisp of his soul was left? You actually killed your father. The blood demon's eyes were as wide as Tong Ling's. He looked at Xue Yini with disbelief, unable to believe the truth in front of his eyes. Your smile is so annoying. Xue Yini waved his hand with an evil smile, not caring about the matter of his father at all. He was not moved at all. Then, he passed through the beautiful woman's body. He said, "You're annoying too." Then, the 2 strands of blood, along with the soul bound within, turned into 2 streaks of blood-red light and fell behind his head, turning into a strand of blood-red hair. Looking at his head, it was actually blood-red hair. There were not many strands of blood-red hair, only a few thousand. The blood demon and the beautiful woman also became one of them. Then, Xue Yini once again revealed that evil smile at the corners of his mouth. He turned around and continued pouncing towards the other disciples. A series of mournful screams rang out, and after a short 15 minutes, they all disappeared. The originally lively blood cloud sect became deathly silent in the blink of an eye. Everyone left the sect, and not a single person could be seen. Shweini stood on a mountain peak, still wearing that evil smile. Even his eyes had traces of blood-red light. Shweini, don't worry. Since you revived this lord will fulfill your final wish. Di Shitian. TSK, you're really weak. I, the blood god, have returned. When his voice fell, his figure had already disappeared without a trace. Blood Cloud Sect, annihilated. Back then, the blood demon had brought Shweini into Heaven Connecting Tower, wanting to hunt savage beasts and use their blood essence to nourish Shweini's remnant soul. Unexpectedly, they had actually entered a dilapidated divine temple by chance, and found a blood-red seed and a miraculous cultivation technique, Blood God Sutra. The Blood God Sutra had been flipped through, and found that the abilities within were indeed incomparably miraculous. If one could successfully cultivate it, they would be able to move unhindered in the world. The strangest thing was that in order to cultivate the Blood God Sutra, one had to plant a seed of blood into one's body. The cultivator could not be in human form, and could only cultivate with the primordial spirit. At that time, Shweini's situation was just perfect. Thinking that this was a fortuitous encounter, he immediately began cultivating. Who would have thought that this cultivation would cause the Blood Cloud Sect to be completely annihilated? Henceforth, the Blood Cloud Sect, which could be called a first-rate sect, was wiped out from the world. It was only 3 days later that the Blood Cloud Sect's annihilation was discovered by passing cultivators. Afterwards, some people found the Blood Cloud Sect disciples who had luckily escaped, and after questioning them, the truth of the sect's annihilation was revealed. News of Shweini's terrifying ability, which could suck away one's blood essence with just one's body, such that even one's soul could not escape, instantly spread. In less than half a month, several sects in the vicinity were also cleansed in blood overnight, just like the Blood Cloud Sect. This matter instantly caused a great commotion in the cultivation world. The name of the blood god. Instantly, it spread throughout the world. Everyone trembled in fear upon hearing this, and a large number of sects directly activated their sect-protecting grand formations. They sealed their mountains and refused to receive guests. They were afraid of provoking the blood god, inviting the calamity of their sect's annihilation. The name of the blood god could stop children from crying at night. The cultivation world was abuzz with discussions. The news spread like wildfire. Di Shitian headed west, riding on his divine light. Every time he flew for a distance, he would recover his depleted true force. Riding on his divine light, he traveled for 7 days, crossing who knows how many mountains and rivers. It had to be said that the purple gold mainland was really too vast, and even the boundaries were unknown. No one knew exactly how vast it was. From the southern barbarians to the Thousand Beasts sect, riding on his divine light would take at least half a month. At this moment, on the way, there was a cultivation city called Immortal Fate City. After Di Shitian bumped into it, he landed and entered the city to look around, to see if there were any precious spiritual items. If there were jade slips, he would directly use his divine eyes to record the contents of the jade slips. Stealing the sky and changing the sun, he was never tired of it. At the same time, he also inquired about the recent changes in the cultivation world. Therefore, he found the largest inn in the city, entered it, and casually ordered some wine and dishes. As he ate, he seriously listened to the various conversations around him, looking for useful information. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 469. The food and wine were all top-notch spiritual items. Spirit grains were used to raise immortal birds with spirit chi. They tasted delicious and contained unique spirit chi. Once swallowed, one would feel a warm sensation that was quickly converted into essence chi to nourish one's body. Di Shitian did not feel burdened by these food and wine. Most of these immortal birds were carefully raised by immortal cultivators. Spirit chickens, spirit ducks, pigs, goats, cows, and dogs did not have any wild nature. Even if they had spirit chi in their bodies, they were tamed and raised as food. They could not be considered demons at all. No one in the demon race would think that these immortal birds were of the same kind. Moreover, the demon race followed the principle of natural selection. All creatures were free to compete in frost. The strong were respected. Not to mention these immortal birds that were not demons at all, even if they were, what harm would there be in eating them? In the future Thousand Demon City, there must also be spirit plant farmers to grow all kinds of spirit grains, spiritual items, and spiritual birds. Eating these spirit foods every day will be of great benefit to cultivation. At the same time, he placed the donkey meat in front of him into his mouth. That delicious taste made Di Shetien nod his head secretly. There was no comparison between this and the wine and dishes in the secular world. The ingredients were different, so the things that were made were even more different. As he ate, he thought to himself. Demons were not like those so-called immortals who drank immortal dew in the morning and ate spirit fruits at dusk. They even abstained from eating. Demons had started out as the lowest level of wild beasts and birds. When it came to eating, they didn't forbid it at all. Instead, they encouraged it. Demons could constantly refine the things they ate into quintessence energy to strengthen themselves. Eating was also a way to become stronger. Thinking about it, there were some things in the immortal cultivation world that were worth learning from the demon race. For example, these immortal birds with spirit grains were not only delicious to eat, but after being refined, it was much better than eating ordinary food. He thought to himself, I'll walk around the city later and buy some seeds of spirit grains. I heard that there are many types of spirit grains. Some grains are even rarer than heavenly treasures. I have to find more seeds. It will be easier to plant them in the future. TSK, this is too scary. It's really been an eventful period recently. Everything is happening at the same time. Little sister, let's not leave Immortal Fate City for the time being. In this period of time, people have been mysteriously disappearing in the immortal cultivation world. If he's alive, we can't find him. If he's dead, we can't find his corpse. At the table next to them sat a group of siblings. The eldest brother was in his 30s. He looked very ordinary. He was not ugly, but he was not handsome either. His little sister looked rather delicate and pretty. She had the temperament of a pretty girl from a humble family. He looked to be around 18 or 19 years old. In this world, one's appearance was innate. There was no such thing as the mortal world saying that cultivators were handsome men and beautiful women. It wasn't impossible to reshape one's appearance, but it was very difficult. That kind of secret technique was extraordinarily precious. As for cultivating a nascent soul and being able to reshape one's body, that was just nonsense. If it was really possible, then wouldn't those experts who had undergone the immortal ascension tribulation, be young and handsome? There weren't many opportunities to truly regain one's youth during cultivation. What one looked forward to the most was reaching the immortal ascension realm. At the moment of breaking through to immortality, as long as one wanted to, they could return to their youthful appearance. Therefore, the saying that the immortal cultivation world was full of handsome men and beautiful women was not credible. Big brother, you're talking about the blood god Shwerini who's been the talk of the town recently? The girl blinked. When she mentioned the blood god, there was a hint of surprise in her voice. Right now, most people are talking about the blood god Shwerini. Who hasn't heard of him? I heard that a senior at the body integration stage once encountered the blood god. That senior was also a man of morals. When he saw Shwerini, who had slaughtered his sect, killed his parents, and was inhumane, he was enraged. In a fit of rage, he engaged in a fierce battle with the bloodstained robe, but to his surprise, the bloodstained robe's devilish arts were far too bizarre. He transformed into a crimson shadow that moved like a ghost, and even the body integration stage senior was devoured by the crimson shadow. In the end, all that was left of him was his skin, which then transformed into a strand of crimson hair that bound his soul. How savage! A look of fear appeared on the man's face. It was said that it was very difficult to injure the blood shadow with flying swords. On the contrary, if the blood shadow pounced on you, your flesh and blood would be devoured in an instant. It was said that every time he devoured a cultivator, his cultivation would increase a little. There was no need for him to deliberately cultivate. Killing was the best soil for him to grow. Big brother, did that Shwe Ini really kill his parents? The girl blinked and asked. Of course. The Blood Cloud sect is a first-rate sect that has been established for almost 1,000 years. The sect's core scriptures are among the best in the immortal cultivation world. The sect master, the Blood Demon, is also an expert who is about to break through to the body integration stage. Shwe Ini is his only son. I heard that when Shwe Ini participated in the Qin family's matchmaking convention, he fought with someone during the test and destroyed his physical body. Only a wisp of his remnant soul escaped. I didn't expect him to be able to come back to life and be so savage. His strength is at least at the body integration stage. He even killed his own parents. This savage demon has already lost his humanity. Naturally, Di Shitian heard every word of this conversation. After hearing it, he couldn't help but have a look of surprise in his eyes. A long time ago, a memory appeared in his mind again. The scene in the Qin family's Zither realm naturally appeared. The name Shwe Ini was definitely not unfamiliar to him. Shwe Ini? Back then, I had a conflict with the Qin Music Valley because of a pill cauldron and an alchemy scripture. In the end, I lost myself in the Zither realm and killed him. Didn't he already die at my hands back then? He's actually still alive. And he even became the blood god today. Di Shitian's heart was filled with surprise. He had an impression of all the people who had died at his hands, so he naturally wouldn't forget Shwe Ini. Originally, she had already confirmed that this person was dead. When she heard news of him again, and that he was a ferocious demon that shook the immortal cultivation world, the feeling in her heart was somewhat unfamiliar. His eyes flickered. After hearing those words, Di Shitian frowned slightly. If what they said was true, then this reborn Shwe Ini was most likely incomparable to back then. Back then, he was only at the core formation stage, but now, even a body integration stage cultivator was killed by a blood shadow. This kind of ability made him feel a little wary. He pondered how he should deal with it if he encountered it. You're lucky that you didn't die back then. Sakura pondered for a while and secretly snorted. His eyes flickered with coldness and sternness as he said, "It's fine if you don't provoke me, but if you really provoke me, I can kill you once back then, and I can kill you again now." The blood god will also become the death god. He secretly remembered Shwe Ini, but didn't think too much about it. He continued to eat the food in front of him, listened to the chaotic information around him, and quickly analyzed the current situation in the cultivation world. What major events had happened to make up for the gap in contact with the cultivation world during this period of time? Have you heard? The young master of the Water Moon Cave Heaven, Shui Wuhan, recently entered the Boneyard Wasteland with Wu Wudi. They seemed to have a fortuitous encounter, and their cultivation level increased greatly. They have the strength to rival Tribulation Transcendence cultivators. They entered the top 10 of the Heaven, Earth, and Mortal role. One is ranked 7th, and the other is ranked 8th. Their fame is widespread. Now, there are a large number of cultivators who want to search for immortality flocking into the wasteland, hoping to be like them and have a fortuitous encounter. However, many go in, but few come out. Isn't that so? Recently, the number of people who challenged Shui Wuhan and Wu Wudi is as many as the sand in the Ganges. However, they all returned in defeat, especially Wu Wudi. Under his hands, if he didn't kill, he would be injured. His martial Dao divine powers are really powerful. Not many cultivators of the same level are a match for him. I'm afraid no one can shake his 7th position. The Heaven, Earth, and Mortal roles, the beauty role. This is something that all the experts in the world dream of. Who doesn't want to enter, especially the beauty role? It's a strange role that only ranks the top 100 beauties in the world. Those who can make it on the role are all devastatingly beautiful. The top 10, especially, are peerless beauties. It's already difficult to describe them with words. The top 10 is not an extravagant hope. If only one of the 100 beauties on the roll can take a fancy to me, I'd be willing to lose 1,000 years of my life. A young cultivator's face was full of yearning as he sighed. What are the 3 roles and 1 role? This sudden conversation fell into Di Shutien's ears. He had planned to leave and buy some spirit seeds in the city, but he couldn't help but stop in his tracks. He sat down again and listened. Hee. Lunatic Di, you don't need to ask. Just ask me. In this world, there aren't many things that I don't know. Do you want me to tell you about the 3 roles and 1 role? No one knew where this dark fellow got his spirit from, but he jumped out again with a whoosh. He said playfully, "Oh, I've never heard of the 3 roles and 1 role. What's going on?" Di Shutian asked without hesitation. He sighed inwardly. After all, he had only been in this world for a short time. There were many things and secrets that he didn't know. Foundation, this was a kind of foundation. What he lacked now was this kind of foundation. Speaking of which, the 3 roles and 1 role isn't an ordinary ranking. There are so many experts in this world. Who dares to rank those experts? 1 wrong move and you'll be killed. But since ancient times, no one has ever doubted the rankings of the 3 roles and 1 role. Even the peerless experts are still ranked on it. Back then, my master, the emperor of the underworld, was on the heaven role. Dark said proudly. Obviously, those who could be on the 3 roles and 1 role had the right to be proud. They were peerless geniuses in the world. As long as you're on the roll, you have the right to be proud. No one can deny this. Even if you're not convinced behind your back, you have to show respect on the surface. It's the fairest and most comprehensive ranking in the world. It covers all the peerless geniuses in the world, the origin continent, and the entire starry sky. On the roll, you're the darling of heaven and earth. If you want to know more, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 470. Those who could make it onto the 3 lists and 1 chart were peerless geniuses. A glint flashed through Di Shutien's eyes. A trace of high fighting spirit and strong fighting spirit appeared in his eyes. Given his pride, how could he be willing to submit to others? Peerless geniuses, right? Even if I'm not a peerless geniuses, so what? I want to be above them. I want to break all shackles. Ming, what are the 3 lists and 1 chart? Tell me in detail. From what you said, it seems to have existed since ancient times. Di Shutian couldn't help but be interested in the 3 lists and 1 chart. He asked Ming in his mind. Let's talk about the 3 rankings first. They are the heaven ranking, the earth ranking, and the mortal ranking. Among them, the mortal ranking includes all the experts who haven't become immortals and haven't really left the mortal world. In other words, all the experts below the earth immortal realm in the world of cultivators. These experts included the origin continent, the various worlds, and all the worlds attached to the origin continent. The top 100 experts would enter the mortal ranking. Among the countless young talents in the universe, the top 100 will be selected to enter the mortal list. Do you think the top 100 on the mortal list can be called peerless geniuses? Yes. Di Shutian nodded and had to admit it. It was unimaginably difficult to select the top 100 out of hundreds of trillions of experts. It was definitely not an exaggeration to say that those who were selected were peerless geniuses. What's the Earth list? Although he had already guessed it, he still asked. The mortal list is a record of the experts in the mortal world. Naturally, the Earth list is a record of the experts who have transcended the immortal realm and are below the peerless geniuses. In the top 100, almost all of them were hegemons of ancient times. Even their fleshly bodies and souls were in the imperishable level. Those in the top 10 are all supremes who have the chance to break through to the peerless geniuses realm. Peerless geniuses. It's definitely not too much. Hiss. Indra sucked in a breath of cold air and said, the Earth ranking already includes the venerables like the ancient giants. Wouldn't the Sky ranking be a ranking that records the peerless powerhouses? Who dares to rank the peerless powerhouses? The shock in his heart was almost indescribable. A matchless expert was already an expert who stood at the peak of the world. Which one of these experts did not have their own pride? Which one of them would be willing to be ranked behind others and be suppressed by others? It could be said that whoever dared to create such a ranking was courting death. Even the heavens couldn't save him. That's right, the heaven roll does indeed record peerless experts. For example, the demon gods of the Fey race, the ancestral gods of the human race, and the primogenitors of the other races are all existences that cannot be defeated. Nether confirmed without hiding anything. Then, he let out two strange laughs. Hey, the one that makes people crazy the most is still that chart, the beauty chart. TSK, only 100 peerless heavenly maidens were recorded in the beauty chart. Every one of them had a peerless talent that could make countless heroes bow before them. In the world, the beauty chart was the most sought after. It was said that every one of the top 10 could make the world pale in comparison. The sun and the moon lost their light. After seeing that kind of beauty, almost everyone would have the slightest intention of hurting them. The Star Empress was the 10th peerless heavenly maiden in the ancient times. Your wife obtained the inheritance of the heavenly maiden of 100 flowers. That heavenly maiden of 100 flowers is ranked 3rd. In Nether prison, Nether opened his mouth without caring about his image. Large amounts of dragonflies dripped from his mouth. 100 heavenly maidens, peerless in their beauty. Di Shitian took a deep breath. His heart was not calm. He was greatly shocked by the 3 lists and 1 chart. It was indeed incredible. It was really rare to gather all the peerless geniuses in the various worlds into these 4 lists. Who came up with the 3 rankings and 1 chart? TSK, which expert in this world do you think could do it? Dark asked in reply before he said, the 3 rankings and 1 chart weren't written by any expert. All of them were carnate spirit treasures that fell from the primal chaos after being born on the quintessence continent. Although they're carnate spirit treasures, they don't possess any offensive capabilities and are hanging on the Empyrean pillar of blades. They are connected to the entire world. Any expert that appears will be displayed on the lists. They are ranked by themselves. They are very accurate. No one can doubt the rankings on them. Carnate spiritual treasure, another carnate spiritual treasure. Di Shitian was secretly shocked. Although he had long guessed that the 3 lists and 1 chart were not ordinary, he did not think that they were carnate spiritual treasures. Carnate spiritual treasures were born in the chaos, carrying the fate of the world. Every one of them was unique. It turned out that they were carnate spiritual treasures. No wonder they had such a magical ability to automatically record those peerless geniuses. Sky Pillar Peak. 4 lists and 1 chart. I wonder where I am ranked. Di Shitian looked out of the window into the void, and his eyes became extremely deep. After sitting in the restaurant for a while and not finding any other noteworthy news, he turned and left the restaurant. He began to stroll around the city. As a place where immortal cultivators gathered, Immortal Fate City was naturally very lively. On the side of the streets, one could see peddlers squatting on the side, setting up stalls and selling all kinds of goods. However, there would not be any precious goods, but there were many of unknown origins. Perhaps there was still a need to find some treasures. As he walked in the city, he looked around. When he saw jade slips, he naturally memorized the contents in his mind. When he was free, he would record them again and put them in the scripture pavilion. For the demons to choose from. In this world, the number of cultivation techniques was the most important foundation, the foundation of inheritance. Therefore, he did not reject any of the strange jade slips that came his way. He memorized them one by one. Next, he found some seeds of spiritual grains in the city. It had to be said that even spiritual plants were extremely knowledgeable. He did not even know how many types there were. For example, there were spiritual grains, such as exquisite rice, crystal rice, longevity rice, and so on. There were many varieties, and each had a different effect. Di Shitian did not stand on ceremony with these. He bought some of each. If he did not have enough spiritual stones, he exchanged them with spiritual wine. He easily collected hundreds of spiritual grains. He stayed in Immortal Fate City for a day before leaving. He came to a desolate and secluded place. He was about to ride on his divine light to continue towards the Thousand Beasts sect. A voice called out from behind him. "Fellow Daoist, please wait." A familiar voice sounded in his ears. When Sakra heard this, the muscles on his face involuntarily twitched a few times. He didn't even think about it. With a thought, a divine light wrapped around his entire body, and with a swish, he soared into the sky. Bang! Just as he flew up into the sky, a huge iceberg appeared above his head. The top of the iceberg was reflecting dazzling rays of light. The appearance of the iceberg was too sudden. Sakra was riding on the divine light and was in a hurry to leave. How would he have expected that there would be an iceberg in front of him? He didn't even have time to stop, and with a bang, he crashed into the iceberg solidly. With Sakra's strength, if he collided with an ordinary iceberg, he could directly smash through it. But when he collided with this iceberg in front of him, he didn't smash the iceberg into pieces. Instead, he was smashed to the ground by the iceberg. Rumble. A human-shaped hole appeared in the ground. F***CK. Di Shitian looked above him. He was smashed into the ground more than 10,000 feet deep. He did not know whether to laugh or cry. With a flash of light in his hand, the jade-like seven sins demonic zither appeared in his hand. Looking at the zither, other than the original earthy yellow spiritual pearl, there was an additional green spiritual pearl. The zither emitted a beam of earthy yellow divine light that covered his body. He burrowed into the ground. He did not go up in the sky, but underground. He cursed his bad luck in his heart. TSK, you don't listen to Shengong Yang. Young man, why are you so anxious? I just wanted to say that there is an iceberg above you and ask you to wait. Why didn't you listen? Now you are at a disadvantage. Not far from where Sakra originally stood, a Daoist with an immortal demeanor and dressed up as a Daoist looked at the big hole that Sakra smashed out and shook his head while sighing. Who else could it be but Shengong Hu? On the iceberg in the sky, two figures stood. When they heard Shengong Hu talking to himself, they could not help but turn their backs at the same time. They looked embarrassed to be associated with him. Don't pretend. I heard that the two of you have recently accepted a disciple each. They seem to be called Shui Wuhan and Wu Wudi. It sounds a bit interesting. Shengong Hu saw the two of them, and a strange light flashed in his eyes. He smiled and said, "Since you have accepted disciples, as their martial uncle, I should have a good talk with them." "Please don't." Two screams sounded. Underground, Di Shitian used the earth escape method to quickly move forward. He could not help but mutter in his heart, "Why did this jinx come here? Could it be that he has his eyes on me and has met me again and again? I heard that they have seen the Kuanping Great Demon in the Cloud Dream Swamp." When he heard the chilling screams, Di Shitian felt his scalp tingle. Damn it, it was really everywhere. After traveling tens of thousands of miles underground, he made sure that he was far away from the previous place. Only then did he come out of the ground and fly through the sky again. Roar. The Thousand Beast sect was still in the original valley. Thick iron chains were tightly binding the white tiger in the center. The white tiger was violently roaring. Outside its body, a whirlwind rose from the ground and twisted the iron chains. It was struggling madly, trying to break the iron chains. The fierce light in its eyes was extremely bloodthirsty. And in front of it, a middle-aged man with an extremely cold expression placed a piece of 10,000-year-old warm jade in front of him. On the warm jade, an illusory old man stared at the white tiger in front of him. There was a strong pressure on his body. Martial Uncle Feng, the 10,000-year-old foundation of the Thousand Beast sect depends on this. The middle-aged man bowed deeply to the old man and said, "Martial Nephew Sect Master, please rest assured. With my primordial spirit in the Ascension transformation and soldier release, there will definitely be no accidents. After the possession, I will guard the sect for 10,000 years. So that the sect's inheritance will not be destroyed. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidyen.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 471. There was a sense of pride in the elder's words. Immortal transformation. He was an expert of the immortal transformation realm before. He was only one step away from becoming an earthly immortal and transcending the mortal world. Anyone who could reach that realm had the right to be proud. Although he still disintegrated in the end due to some unforeseen circumstances, leaving only his primordial spirit behind. However, once his primordial spirit reached the immortal transformation realm, he could cultivate as a rogue immortal at any time. The strength of a rogue immortal could still surpass the immortal transformation realm and the mortal world. There was nothing wrong with calling them immortals. Although there was a rogue immortal tribulation every 1,000 years and it was very difficult, every time one survived it, his strength would instantly multiply and reach new heights. A 3 tribulation rogue immortal was comparable to a celestial immortal, a 6 tribulation rogue immortal was comparable to a celestial king, and a 9 tribulation rogue immortal was comparable to a celestial emperor. They were venerables who could dominate a region. Therefore, rogue immortals might have a chance to succeed. Although 9 tribulation rogue immortals were extremely rare in the world, they were not non-existent. According to legend, Green Lotus Venerable, who was known as Green Lotus Sword Fairy, was a 9 tribulation rogue immortal. He was so strong that he was a top-notch expert in the venerable realm. There were few who could match him in the world. It was said that the Sky Sword Valley of the 4 Great Holy Lands obtained a sword manual left behind by Green Lotus Sword Fairy, which gave them their current foundation and status. The immortal transformation realm, even if only the primordial spirit was left, could not be underestimated. The elder's eyes fell on the white tiger in front of him who was roaring violently. There was a touch of disdain and a touch of joy in his eyes. The disdain was because he was extremely contemptuous of the white tiger's strength. The white tiger's strength was forcibly cultivated to the combination realm by the Thousand Beasts sect, and it was not a threat when it was unconscious and irrational. With the elder's confidence in himself, it would be easy for him to possess the body. The joy was because he was happy about the body of the white tiger in front of him. The white tiger was one of the 5 divine beasts. The divine beast bloodline in its body had been completely stimulated. He was secretly happy. This body was a rare treasure in the world. Once the possession was successful, this body would be his. At that time, with the body of the divine beast, he would be able to cultivate quickly. Coupled with the primordial spirit of the immortal transformation realm, it was just a matter of time before he could reach the earth immortal transformation. He had obtained the white tiger's innate ability. The various benefits made the heart of the old man, who had lived for God knows how many years, beat wildly. Greed rose in his heart. Marshal Uncle Feng, the sect's plans for the next 10,000 years all depend on you, the middle-aged man said seriously. Watch me seize your body. When Senior Feng heard this, he smiled proudly. He looked at the white tiger and moved his body. His body was a primordial spirit, so his speed was unimaginable. He appeared in front of the white tiger in an instant. Although the white tiger's mind was confused, it instinctively sensed danger. It opened its mouth and let out an earth-shattering roar. Wave after wave of sound waves rushed toward Elder Feng like tidewater. However, Elder Feng was an old monster who had lived for God knows how many years. A clear light came out of his body. It was unknown what this clear light was, but it blocked all the sound waves outside, making them unable to go any further. It easily pounced in front of its head. He transformed into a streak of light and entered the white tiger's body. In the white tiger's mind, it was pitch black everywhere. A white tiger glared at the uninvited guest in front of it with a fierce look. It roared and pounced toward him. A crazy tiger doesn't even have the right to make me attack. I'll seal you first, then slowly deal with you. Senior Feng looked at the white tiger that was pouncing toward him. He looked at the beast-like attack that had no pattern at all. He shook his head slightly and waved his hand disdainfully. A clear light turned into 9 chains that appeared out of nowhere. They instantly locked the white tiger's limbs, body, neck, and other parts. They were all locked up, making it unable to move. In the state of the white tiger, he was not interested in it at all. It had strength but no will to control it. It was a paper tiger. It was easily sealed. After sealing the white tiger, Senior Feng did not care at all. He was eager to accept this divine beast's body and feel the feeling of having a body again. He wanted to experience this body's innate ability. As for the white tiger, in his opinion, it was an existence that could be easily destroyed. It would be the same to deal with it after he got the body. There was no difference. Roar. After a long while, the white tiger's closed eyes suddenly opened. Within those eyes, there was no longer any hint of confusion or confusion. Instead, it was filled with joy. With a roar, it turned its head around and swept its gaze over itself. The tiger stripes on its forehead instantly gave off a strong sense of majesty. From its entire body, an unimaginable might was being emitted. Although it did not move, it gave off a sense of danger and power just by standing there. The tiger's fur all over its body was emitting waves of divine light. It moved without wind, moving up and down like waves. It was very magical. It was imposing without being angry. In an instant, the entire valley seemed to be flowing around its emotions. Whoosh! The white tiger looked at the metal chains that were still binding its body and seemed to be somewhat dissatisfied. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew in the air and scarlet gold wind blades appeared out of nowhere. Every blade was as thin as a cicada's wing. They were so sharp that they could even cut a sharp trajectory in the air as they slashed at the metal chains with lightning speed. Clang! Clang! A crisp sound seemed to ring out at the same time as the scarlet gold wind blade fell. Immediately, they saw with their own eyes that the iron chains binding the white tiger were cut into countless pieces and fell from his body. All of the restraints were completely removed. Two sharp divine lights shot out from the tiger's eyes. They seemed to be able to penetrate the void. Martial Uncle Feng? The middle-aged man was overjoyed when he saw that, but he still called out hesitantly. The iron chain was not an ordinary item. It was made from the dark ice iron found in the 10,000 feet ice and various other precious materials. Even an ordinary expert in the tribulation stage would be able to easily break the iron chain. Otherwise, it would not have been used to bind the white tiger. Martial Nephew Sect Leader, although the bloodline of this divine beast's body is not very pure, it has great potential and is indeed very powerful. I have just taken over this body, so I need to go into seclusion for a few days to familiarize myself with this body. Only then will I be able to fully unleash my combat power, the white tiger said. However, there was a sense of joy in his words. Obviously, he was very satisfied with this divine beast's body. Congratulations on your rebirth, Martial Uncle Feng. This valley will be in your hands. Feel free to go into seclusion. I will arrange for the valley to be temporarily sealed off. We will celebrate when you come out of seclusion. With that, he turned and left. He then arranged for disciples to stand guard outside the valley. No one was allowed to enter the valley. On the way to the Thousand Beast sect, a divine light that was flying rapidly in the air suddenly let out a muffled groan. It quickly fell from the sky and landed on a mountain peak. The divine light dissipated, and Di Shitian's figure appeared from it. Dressed in a black robe, Di Shitian's forehead was suddenly covered in dense beads of sweat. One of his hands was pressed tightly against his heart. It was as if an unimaginable pain had appeared on his body. Pain. A terrible pain that penetrated his heart kept emerging from it. It was as if thousands of sharp blades were constantly cutting it. Even with his tenacity, he could not bear it. Accompanied by the intense pain, an extremely bad premonition appeared in his mind. How could this be? After a long while, Di Shitian felt the intense pain in his body gradually dissipate. He muttered to himself, and even his voice became a little hoarse. Cold sweat dripped from his forehead and soaked the ground under his feet, forming a small puddle. Sudden impulse. This kind of feeling will only appear when something happens to someone close to me that I can't cut off. Although I had a feeling that time with Little White, it was not as intense and fierce. Who could it be? Little White, Chen Shi, or Mother? Di Shitian's heart was like a raging wave that was rolling wildly. This was not the first time he had encountered such a situation. Naturally, he knew that this was the most wonderful feeling in the world. It was a feeling that could not be blocked by any force. It was a kind of warning sign from the unseen. This kind of omen could not be wrong. Every time it appeared, something big must have happened, or even a sign of the arrival of life and death. No, little White and Chen Shi are in the southern wilderness. I have already let Chen Shi take control of the exquisite pagoda there. Even if there is danger, they can hide in the pagoda and escape underground. There is also the formation map. If something really happens, I will be able to sense it. That would be mother and brother. The Thousand Beasts sect, the Thousand Beasts sect, could it be that they have begun to kill them? Daisha Tian's mind was spinning crazily and countless thoughts were flashing rapidly. With his wisdom, he had locked his target on the Thousand Beasts sect in an instant. The Thousand Beasts sect. I will slaughter your entire sect. A crazy roar soared into the sky, and the clouds in the sky were scattered on the spot. Daisha Tian's eyes were burning with rage. There was a ball of fire in his heart that burned fiercely. The demon refining cauldron in the demon abode was spinning at an unprecedented speed, causing the spiritual chi of heaven and earth to twist mysteriously, forming a vortex that surged into his body like a tide. It was as if a terrifying black hole had suddenly appeared outside his body. Clang! Tiger Soul directly burst out of the scabbard, and a right hand instantly grasped the slender hilt of Tiger Soul. On the blade, golden saber light flowed continuously like waves. Those fishbone-like saber patterns seemed to have completely come alive, and with a kai-kai sound, they appeared in the air. Strands of saber chi naturally twisted the surrounding air. Bang! Daisha Tian's eyes turned cold. The tip of Tiger Soul was pointed diagonally to the ground. His black hair fluttered wildly without any wind, and waves of demonic chi continuously surged out from the pores of his body. Like smoke signals, it soared into the sky, turning the top of his head into a rolling black cloud. As he stepped into the void, circles of frightening ripples appeared under his feet. Those two eyes had already turned blood red. Patter. When Daisha Tian took his second step, he was already 1,000 feet away. Holding the Tiger Soul in his hand, Xiao Chen slashed out a terrifying saber mark between where Zhonli stood and where he appeared. The Tiger Soul had already cut the void in half. It was so sharp that it was unimaginable. One step was 1,000 feet. This ability had already reached the realm of shrinking the ground into an inch. Shrinking the ground into an inch was not difficult. As long as one's strength reached a certain level, one would naturally understand this ability. It was just that one's understanding of it varied. Those with a profound understanding of it could reach the realm of being so close yet so far away. Those with a shallow understanding of it could reach hundreds of feet with a single step, and there was not the slightest bit of worldly chi. At this moment, Daisha Tian actually naturally entered the realm of shrinking the ground into an inch. This was also due to him cultivating the 8 desolation steps. One step after another. With each step, the anger on Daisha Tian's body surged out like a tide. In the void, the power of desire that belonged to anger seemed to have been inexplicably stirred. It surged out of the void like a tide and endlessly surged into his body. Following the 4th demon vein of anger, a huge amount of anger power surged into the demon residence. In the demon residence, it did not go anywhere. It directly rushed into the demon refining cauldron. After entering the cauldron, the demon refining cauldron spun crazily at a speed never before seen. It drove all the power in the demon residence into the cauldron in an instant. It was rapidly refined, and even turned into a pure power. It poured into the 4th grade Black Lotus that was spinning in circles in the cauldron. In the 4th grade Black Lotus, the original 3rd grade Black Lotus had completely merged into one. It was suffused with a dark mysterious luster, and there were traces of dense chi rising. In the new 1st grade Black Lotus, there was a huge amount of anger power stored inside. It was the power formed by the anger and desire of all living beings in the world. Inside, there were countless obsessions entangled. At this moment, Daisha Tian's angry state of mind directly triggered the anger of the desire power in the world. A huge amount of anger power surged into his body and into the 4th grade Black Lotus. Immediately, One could see with their own eyes that the originally dim grade 4 Black Lotus was brightening at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, it also became darker and closer to the other grade 3 Black Lotuses. This change could be seen with one's own eyes. Fast. 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 It was really too fast. This kind of terrifying growth speed had never been seen before. Originally, Di Shitian's Demon Core Third Transformation Realm was rapidly approaching the peak of the Third Transformation Realm. This change was extremely clear. Even his own emotions were completely filled with anger. Although his mind was still clear, he did not want to forcibly suppress this anger. Instead, he vented this anger to his heart's content. Crazy Di, you're crazy. You're absorbing the power of desire like this. The Demon Core Third Transformation Realm will reach the peak in the blink of an eye. If you continue to absorb, you won't be able to suppress it. Soon, the 4-9 demonic tribulation will appear. Coupled with the test of your desire state, it's too dangerous. Stop quickly. Don't go crazy at this time. Don't go crazy. Seeing this in the infernal prison, Ming almost jumped up and down anxiously. He roared and shouted repeatedly, trying to wake Di Shitian up. He was very clear about the current situation. If he really continued, he would immediately attract the heavenly tribulation. Once the heavenly tribulation came, it would not be an ordinary trouble. Especially when he was facing not only one tribulation, but two. Especially in the desire state, one wrong step and he would be doomed eternally. Even his eyes were red as he meditated. If he were to undergo the tribulation at this time, he felt that he was simply courting death. Just like immortal cultivators, if they wanted to achieve a breakthrough, they had to first comprehend everything they had learned and sublimate it. They had to think about their own direction thoroughly and gather all the insights they had gained in their lifetime to form their own unique domain. There was also such a process from demon to demon king. Without comprehending the domain and breaking through by force, there was a 90% chance that he would die. However, at this time, he did not carefully think about what kind of domain he wanted to comprehend. Wasn't it a joke to go through the tribulation at this time? How could he not be anxious? Tribulation, so what? I'm going to go through the tribulation and really break through to the ancient demon king realm. Let's see what the heavenly tribulation can do to me. Today, even heaven can't stop me. If heaven wants to stop me, I'll cut it down. What kind of desire can captivate me? Anger state, then bear my anger, the emperor's wrath. Sakra angrily laughed out loud. Dragging his blade, he quickly walked towards the Thousand Beasts sect. With every step he took, there would be countless ripples under his feet. The aura on his body was rising violently with every step he took. It was fire. It was anger. The anger in his heart that he could not suppress, nor did he want to suppress, the anger that had been accumulating in his chest since that year at Tiger Hill. The anger toward the Thousand Beasts sect and the immortal cultivation world was completely ignited by the terrible whim from before. It was so thoroughly ignited that even Di Shitian himself did not want to suppress it. Vent it completely. Regardless of everything, he drew the endless power of desire between heaven and earth, drawing the huge amount of desire and desire that belonged to anger to himself. He wanted to completely ignite the anger and constantly push this anger to the limit. He wanted to vent all this anger on the Thousand Beasts sect. He wanted to let them feel the power of anger and the fear of anger. In his mind, while chanting the Emperor Tyrant Heart Sutra, he turned himself into an emperor and remained unmoved. At the same time, he was immersed in the endless anger. He gathered all the essence of the anger together and entered his mind. In his mind, it turned into countless saber moves, constantly waving and flashing. Comprehending the essence of anger. Integrating the saber moves. The first move of the Emperor's Way of the Emperor, the deity and devil's sorrow, was a battle skill that had reached the limit of sadness. It was a peerless battle skill that could only be comprehended in a special environment. The Emperor's Shocking Book was a strange book created by the fusion of the power of heaven and earth and the power of desire. It was inseparable from the 7 emotions and 6 desires. It was destined that the Emperor's way of the Emperor would be the embodiment of the limit of the power of desire. Even in the midst of anger, Di Shitian did not lose his mind. He wanted to use this opportunity to sublimate himself again. He wanted to use his boundless anger to create the second move of the Emperor's way of the Emperor's wrath. In his mind, he was madly deducing. Countless angry thoughts continued to fuse together, turning into countless saber moves to vent the anger. Step by step, he still walked toward the Thousand Beasts sect. As the angry thoughts of countless creatures increased in his mind, the second battle skill gradually began to mature. The deduction was unprecedentedly smooth. The peerless battle skill appeared again. To be continued. If you want to know more, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 472. Extreme Emperor's Way. It was a peerless battle technique derived from the 7 emotions and 6 desires. The celestial demon's sorrow was the power of sorrow. When combined with the celestial demon's unwillingness and unyieldingness to die, the celestial demon's sorrow wanted to release the last bit of strength in the chest. This was the sublimation of the sorrow of life. The celestial demon's sorrow was unparalleled in the world. This kind of combat skill could not have been created if it had not been in that specific environment. Now, Di Shitian was once again deriving the next move of the Extreme Emperor's Way. The Extreme Emperor's Way was derived from the understanding of the 7 emotions and 6 desires. Correspondingly, there were 13 battle techniques. At this moment, the fury in Sakra's heart had reached its peak. His hair was standing on end as he triggered the endless desires of all living beings between the heavens and the earth. He gathered all the desires of all living beings into his body and allowed the inextinguishable thoughts of anger to surge into his mind. Those thoughts of anger were something that would only appear when countless living beings were extremely furious. Countless similar angry thoughts gathered together, and it was almost impossible to erase them. These inextinguishable desires were supposed to be a test that he would have to go through when he broke through the third transformation of the Yaodan and entered the realm of desire. Perhaps it would turn into an illusion that could be passed off as reality, or perhaps it would be pulled into the dreams of all living beings and experience their lives. Perhaps there would be other possibilities. However, the desires that should have been stored in the Black Lotus rushed into his mind at this moment. He had to face the test and spur of the desires in advance. It was dangerous, extremely dangerous. But at this moment, he triggered the anger in his chest and used the Extreme Emperor Tyrannical Heart Mantra to stimulate the Emperor's domineering aura. In his mind, he was an emperor who reigned supreme in the world. He maintained a sense of calmness in his heart. In his mind, only to see countless angry thoughts turning into ferocious and furious faces. Each and every one of them was wrapping around the Sakra with all the anger they had suffered, trying to fuse him with those angry thoughts, making them indistinguishable from each other. It was as if there was a voice ringing in his ears. The world is heartless and treats all living beings as dogs. Why should it control our fate? Follow me and vent your anger to the heavens. Our bodies, hair, and skin are from our parents. Our parents are suffering. As children, where should we go? Kill, kill, kill. Countless voices reverberated in his mind, wanting to pull him in completely, becoming one of them, no longer distinguishable from each other. Anger, transformed into the most fundamental anger. Blade of fury, fury blade pierces the heavens. Di Shitian was in the center of the countless angry spirits. He was dressed in a black emperor's robe. On his robe, 9 divine tigers with different expressions were roaring in all directions. His majesty was above all living beings. Countless angry thoughts turned into strands of black threads that wrapped around his body, but they couldn't shake his heart at all. Instead, he shouted angrily. In recent years, he had seen countless saber techniques, including those from the mortal world, those from the immortal cultivation world, those from the battle techniques, and those from the demon folk. All of them surged out, combining with the boundless will of rage. All of the saber techniques became sabers of rage. Each and every saber was a manifestation of the boundless rage in his heart, and represented the rage of all living beings. Every slash was as powerful as a thunderbolt. Every slash was incomparably overbearing. Every slash was about to break the void in front of it, with an indomitable momentum. Suddenly, in his mind, Di Shitian turned into an emperor. Outside his body, countless angry sabers were swinging wildly in all kinds of mysterious trajectories, wanting to destroy the entire void. Anger was irritable. The flames of anger were monstrous and unstoppable. Fury blade, merge into my body. Who is the emperor? I am the emperor. Di Shitian's eyes flickered, and light shot out in all directions. He shouted again. Outside his body, countless angry sabers that were mixed with his own saber intent surged toward the emperor like a tide. They pierced into his body and merged into it. Countless angry thoughts shuttled through his body. Within the angry thoughts, there was a sharp and violent saber intent. If he couldn't control it, his entire body would be crushed instantly. As the angry thoughts gathered in his body, the emperor reached out his left hand. He opened his palm. Wisps of mysterious angry thoughts spurted out from his hand, but they didn't dissipate. They just floated above his palm. As the number increased, these angry thoughts strangely intertwined and turned into a snow-white illusory seal. This seal grew longer and longer as time passed. Obsession and saber intent continued to pour in. It began to turn from illusory to more and more real, as if it was going to become a real thing. Rumble. Outside his body, Di Shitian crazily absorbed the power of desire without restraint. The royal true force in his body was increasing at an unprecedented speed, especially the power of rage. It kept pouring into the fourth-grade Black Lotus. At this moment, the luster of the fourth-grade Black Lotus was almost no different from the other third-grade Black Lotuses. As Di Shitian turned the angry thoughts into the seal, the membrane at the edge of the two was constantly dissipating and becoming weaker. However, this time, the royal true force in his body had been completely promoted to the peak of the third transformation of the monster core. After reaching the peak, the power of desire outside continued to pour into his body like a tide. The vast aura emitted from his body moved heaven and earth. Above his head, large patches of tribulation clouds were formed out of thin air. Last time, it was a three-colored tribulation cloud. This time, it was a four-colored tribulation cloud. The four colors entangled together, forming a vast colorful tribulation cloud that covered a large area of the sky. It was Di Shitian's four demonic tribulations. But he still took large strides forward. He had no intention of stopping. It was as if he did not care about the demonic tribulations above his head. This kind of behavior was like contempt. Suddenly, it angered the tribulation cloud in the sky. Thousands of lightning bolts, like thunder snakes, crazily shuttled through the clouds. The vast majesty fiercely pressed down on Di Shitian's body. For a moment, it was as if he was suddenly carrying dozens of the heaviest mountains on his back. Even the surrounding air seemed to have frozen in an instant. This heavenly tribulation was still the five elements' demonic tribulations. However, in the demonic tribulations, the power of the five elements was condensed. They were the four elements of metal, wood, water, and fire. They evolved into the Gung Metal Divine Thunder, Yi Wood Divine Thunder, Yin Water Divine Thunder, and Yang Hua Divine Thunder. No matter what kind of thunder it was, once it had the power of the heavenly tribulation, its power would be multiplied. This demonic tribulations was so terrifying that even strong people in the tribulation stage would feel their scalp tingle and run as far as possible. Crack. The tribulation clouds churned as boundless heavenly might condensed together. Finally, under the disdainful gaze of Indra, within the tribulation clouds, a reddish-gold Gung divine lightning that was as thick as a water bucket, with countless sharp swords and sabers appearing within, heavily smashed down towards him. As it swept past, the surrounding space trembled intensely. Just the pressure alone was enough to cause the void to distort. There was no way to avoid the tribulation thunder. If you wanted to hide, it would still chase after you. There was no difference whether you hid or not. You could only take it head-on. There was no other choice. The divine thunder broke through the air. With a boom, It directly hit Di Shitian. Countless swords evolved from the divine thunder instantly covered his whole body, crazily destroying it from top to bottom, wanting to mince him into pieces in an instant. Minced into pieces. It had to be said that this 4-9 demonic tribulations was more than 10 times stronger than the previous 3-9 demonic tribulations. Just this divine thunder alone, if it was during the breakthrough back then, it would probably be able to cut countless wounds on his body. If this continued, it would not be impossible for him to be smashed into pieces. At this moment, the divine thunder descended. Sakra's tyrannical demonic body naturally displayed its might and contended against the divine lightning. On the surface of his skin, there were bursts of dark divine light. Although the divine lightning transformed into blades that slashed on the surface of his skin, although they could break through the divine light, they could only cut small wounds on his demonic body before they were exhausted and were blocked. Boom. In his mind, the crystal-clear jade seal in the Emperor's hand had completely absorbed all the undying obsessions. It completely condensed and turned into a substance, emitting thousands of rays of divine light. On the seal, there was a sculpture of a divine tiger. In the seal, there were also 9 divine tigers roaring lifelike. This was a divine tiger heavenly roaring seal. The Emperor's seal was called the Imperial Jade Seal. The Imperial Jade Seal had the power to turn the world upside down, to make mountains and rivers fall into chaos, and to make corpses float for thousands of miles. It could replace the Emperor's power. That was the peak of power, that was the extreme of power. The Emperor's way of the Emperor, Emperor's wrath. Success. The moment the Imperial Jade Seal condensed, in the demonic abode, the membrane of the Tier 4 Black Lotus was instantly broken. The torrential power of wrath gushed out crazily, merging into the Emperor's true force. As the Black Lotus continued to rotate, the power of wrath quickly turned into the Emperor's true force. After the 9 transformations, the Black Lotus had completely turned into the Emperor's true force. At the same time, the Black Lotus, in a divine light, had a new Tier 5 on top of the original Tier 4. It had become a Tier 5 Black Lotus. However, the Tier 5 was incomparably illusory, as if it could disappear at any time. It also did not attract the new power of desire. This was because he had not broken through the 5th demonic vein and could not absorb the power of desire. The demonic vein was filled with divine splendor, which required the use of true force to constantly refine the divine splendor. Madman, you are really a madman. I didn't expect you to use this method to trigger the test of the realm of desire. Instead, you stood in the position of the protagonist and used the power of wrath to evolve the Emperor's wrath. You used the mentality of an emperor to vent your anger. Although you are angry, you still maintain a clear mind. When an emperor is angry, millions of corpses will fall. Do you know that if anything goes wrong, you will be crushed by the wrath on the spot? The emperor in your mind just now is your primordial spirit. If it is really destroyed, you are finished. Dark yelled with lingering fear, even so, if you don't condense your domain, the divine punishment won't dissipate. Indeed, the problem in front of him now was the problem of the domain. What kind of domain should he condense? This was the most important thing. The domain was the biggest difference between a demon and a demon king. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 473. Dark's worries were not unfounded. The fact that he had to undergo the 4 demonic tribulations at this time was indeed too unexpected. Originally, every demon would first comprehend what they had learned at this time and seriously consider what kind of domain they were going to form. For example, although sword cultivators formed sword domains, they were ultimately related to the sword. However, there were many types of domains that could be condensed. For example, the profound ice sword domain that leaned towards the cold attribute, the blazing flame sword domain that leaned towards the fire attribute, and so on. They were all different, but they were all most compatible with one's body. That way, the domain that was condensed would be the one that could unleash the strongest combat strength. Moreover, If one did not understand their own body to the peak, they would not be able to touch the level of territory. Don't worry. I've cultivated the Extreme King Shocking Book, which absorbs the 7 emotions and 6 desires. My fighting skills and the Extreme King Emperor's Way are also closely related to the 7 emotions and 6 desires. My skills and fighting skills are all based on the power of desire. My territory cannot be separated from the 7 emotions and 6 desires. Di Shitian said in a low voice. He wasn't worried about this at all. A long time ago, he had carefully thought about what kind of domain he would form in the future. He hadn't told Ming about this. Although he had planned for this a long time ago, even Ming didn't know about it. Otherwise, no matter how angry he was, he would not rashly trigger the 4-9 demonic trials. Bang! Sakura opened his eyes, but his footsteps didn't have the slightest intention of stopping. Although his body was bearing an incomparably heavy pressure, his footsteps were still incomparably steady and powerful as he stepped in the void. He looked up. Large patches of terrifying tribulation clouds were constantly moving along with his footsteps. The 4-colored tribulation clouds were indeed powerful, and they carried the pressure of heaven and earth. One could clearly see that the space around the tribulation clouds was in a strange state of distortion. In the surroundings, the massive amount of power of wrath that had been drawn out earlier had turned into a large black cloud that kept surging towards him, wanting to rush into his body. Good chance. Watch me break the heavens' tribulation. Sakura saw the power of wrath around him and his eyes lit up. He said in his heart, Extreme Monarch Emperor Dao Emperor's Wrath. He stretched out his right hand, formed a hand blade and chopped towards the place where the power of wrath gathered. Suddenly, thousands of saber chi containing anger rushed into the power of anger. In an instant, all the power of anger was devoured by the saber chi. They turned into real saber blades. Rumble. Thousands of saber blades cut through the void, but they quickly gathered at the same place. In the blink of an eye, a divine tiger roaring seal appeared in the void. This imperial seal was hundreds of feet in size. The imperial jade seal seemed to contain an unimaginable power. It pressed against the tribulation clouds in the sky. Under the imperial jade seal, the entire void and everything in the world seemed to be completely frozen in an instant. The divine thunder that fell from the clouds bombarded the imperial jade seal, but it was shattered on the spot and did not damage the imperial jade seal at all. Bang! With a loud bang, the imperial seal pressed against the tribulation clouds. It was like an emperor stamping the imperial seal on an imperial edict, making a crisp sound. Thousands of saber chi with anger slanted out and completely dispersed the tribulation clouds. At the same time, the imperial seal also collapsed under the vast power of the tribulation clouds. One seal. Just one seal was enough to disperse the tribulation clouds. This was not the complete emperor's fury. It was an incomplete move, but it used the power of anger that had not dissipated when he broke through to the heavens and earth to explode with terrifying power. It broke through the tribulation clouds. The tribulation clouds dispersed. Looking at where it was before, there was actually a pitch-black hole. It was extremely frightening. Rumble. The void shook. In the vicinity, all the power of heaven and earth within 1,000 miles was instantly drawn and trembled. Above his head, an incomparably huge divine pillar fell from the sky and fell straight down. In an instant, Di Shitian was completely enveloped in this divine light. This was a purple divine light. It was condensed with an incomparably vast and mysterious power. Enveloping him, the mysterious power was incomparably vast, as if it was endless. It was so dense that it was about to liquefy. However, the power did not immediately pour into Di Shitian's body. Instead, it hovered outside of his body, with no intention of entering his body. Crazy Di, quickly, you need to condense a domain. This is the moment. If you miss this opportunity, it will be extremely difficult to condense a domain again. Moreover, the domain you condense will be of the worst type. This is the primordial purple light. There is great fortune and endless mysteries in it. No matter how strong you are, this is the only chance to condense a domain. The primordial purple light will not appear again in the future. Dark repeatedly roared. Whether one could become an expert or not, This was the most important step. The key was the primordial purple light. This primordial purple light would only appear when one broke through the boundary of the demon realm and reached the demon king realm. Its purpose was not to strengthen one's body, but to help condense a domain. If one seized this opportunity to condense a domain, with the primordial purple light in it, the domain would become extremely tough. It would not be easily destroyed. Even if it was not destroyed, it could be repaired and cultivated again. Without the primordial purple light, if one's own domain was damaged or even completely destroyed by the enemy, one would have to put in 100 or 1,000 times more effort to repair and condense a new domain. Only then would there be a slim chance of success. It could be said that with the primordial purple light, one's domain would not be completely destroyed. If one did not condense a domain at this time, the primordial purple light would naturally dissipate. 7 emotions and 6 desires, the desires of all living beings, undying obsessions, listen to my command. Gather all desires and be used by me. Desire as the thread, obsessions as the heart. Myriad tribulation love threads, virtual illusion, condense, condense, condense. Di Shitian's expression was cold as he shouted. His mind was in a frenzy as his hands rapidly formed various mysterious seals. As the seals were formed, thousands of tiny pitch-black threads were pulled out from the void. Those were the myriad tribulation love threads formed by desires. The threads gathered above his head and danced flexibly. They weaved back and forth, weaving back and forth. Pieces of scrolls appeared in front of him at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, the primordial purple light around him finally moved. As the scrolls weaved, the primordial purple light flowed into them. With the integration of the primordial purple light, the weaved scrolls suddenly had a mysterious charm. It was as if they had a spirit in an instant. Virtual illusion? You want to condense your own domain into a virtual illusion? Dark was completely shocked by Di Shitian. He seemed to find it unbelievable. However, he immediately laughed wildly and said, "Good, good, good. Well done. With your ability to cultivate the royal book of shocking world, if you don't condense a virtual illusion, what are you going to condense? Even I did not think of it. If you can enter the limitless desire realm of the 9 great forbidden lands in the future and obtain the primordial spiritual treasure nurtured inside, the real virtual illusionary realm will be integrated with your domain. TSK, TSK. Who doesn't desire it? The limitless realm of desire was formed by the accumulation of the endless desires of countless living beings in the world over tens of thousands of years. It was a mysterious place called the limitless realm of desire. The limitless realm of desire gathered the endless desires of all living beings in the world. Once one entered it, they would be placed in the countless limitless realms of desire. It was very scary. The power of desire in the desire state was so strong that it could not be measured. After so many years, no one knew how strong the power of desire was. Anyway, it could be said to be endless. Even the most powerful experts did not dare to enter that place easily. The reason why it was called one of the 9 great forbidden lands was that it had nurtured a primordial spiritual treasure, the virtual illusion. It could be said that every forbidden land had a primordial spiritual treasure. That was why it was the most terrifying place in the world. Di Shitian wanted to use the power of the primordial spiritual treasure to condense his domain into the virtual illusion. He was the only one who dared to try this method. He could do it. If it were anyone else, it would be impossible. Everyone has desires, but due to the environment they live in, the responsibilities they shoulder, the principles they live by, and so on, there are many reasons that are complicated and entangled with each other. They are suppressed in their bodies and restrict their desires. Almost everyone has moments of hesitation and regret when they choose to give up on their desires. There was an incomparably huge mystery behind this. As long as there is desire, I can make it impossible for him to escape from my virtual illusion. Di Shitian was very confident in his heart. He controlled the countless myriad tribulation love threads and quickly wove them. Under the power of the primordial purple light, a mysterious scroll gradually began to complete. Thousands of desires, return to the virtual illusion. He shouted again, and a complete scroll appeared above his head. When it was spread out, the slender scroll unfolded. In the scroll, like a dream, countless images appeared. There were old farmers farming, birds flying, wealth and ordinary people, gold and jade everywhere, beautiful people in books, and many carriages and horses. The high and mighty emperor, the ant-like commoners, and all kinds of living beings appeared in the scroll. It really looked like there was another vivid world in the painting. However, in the scroll, what was really reflected was only happiness, anger, sadness, and other kinds of desires. If the desire was among these four, it could exert its greatest power. Swoosh! As soon as the scroll was completed, the heavenly pillar disappeared as well. The scroll closed again, turned into a scroll, and fell into Di Shitian's hand. It seemed extremely illusory. Now there are only 4 kinds of desires in the virtual illusion. In the future, I will need to constantly integrate the power of other desires. It will become stronger as I become, and will constantly deter the world. Di Shitian said proudly, and the scroll merged into his body. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 474. At this moment, Di Shitian could only control 4 types of desires: happiness, anger, sadness, and taste. There were still 9 types that he had yet to master. Hence, his domain was the virtual illusory realm. It was incomplete and could be said to be imperfect. There were still flaws to be found. Even if he could take the enemy into the illusory realm, if these 4 types of desires were unable to trigger the other party's desires, then, the person who was taken in would be able to find the flaw and break out of the virtual illusory realm, escaping from it. Hence, from now on, he had already laid out all the possible ways to perfect his domain and the virtual illusory realm. As long as he integrated the comprehensions and grasped desires into the virtual illusory realm after each breakthrough, he would be able to continuously increase the power of desires. In the end, he would be able to complete all 7 emotions and 6 desires in the virtual illusory realm. At that time, he would truly be considered to have achieved the great perfection of his domain. He would have supreme power. In the future, when he obtained the source of the world and merged it with the source of life, he would be able to evolve a small world in his body. When that happened, his own domain would be the supreme law of that small world. Even if he only had 4 types of desires now, Di Shitian still believed that his virtual illusory realm would definitely have a power that was far beyond that of an ordinary domain. Once he entered, it would definitely be extremely difficult for him to escape. I have already broken through to the 4th transformation of the Yaodan realm, the ancient Demon King realm. I have formed the virtual illusory realm, which is equivalent to the tribulation passing realm in the immortal cultivation world. With the ultimate emperor mask, immortal ascension, and itinerant immortals are nothing in my eyes. Now that all the tribulation passing realm cultivators in the immortal cultivation world have left, the Thousand Beasts sect will definitely not be an exception. Even if there are itinerant immortals guarding the sect, I am not afraid. Let's see who can stop me. Today, I will destroy the Thousand Beasts sect. Di Shitian's eyes shone brightly. His gaze was filled with anger and terrifyingly sharp. There was a faint trace of blood in his eyes. The breakthrough this time had completely elevated him. He truly stood at the top of the current strength on the surface of the purple gold mainland. He was qualified to be called a powerhouse under the confidence of strength. Who could suppress the anger in his heart? Bang, bang, bang. He stepped forward continuously. A divine light suddenly burst forth and enveloped him. Dragging the tiger soul demonic blade, he flew straight into the air, only to leave behind a terrifying scar to be seen. In this northwest region, there was actually another expert undergoing tribulation. What a powerful aura! Even the power of heaven and earth within a radius of 1,000 miles was stirred up into chaos. Who transcended the heavenly tribulation? There shouldn't be many old fellows who can transcend heavenly tribulation in the northwest. On the main peak of the 10,000 Beast sect, there was a 10,000 Beasts palace. This palace occupied a very large area, and accommodating over 10,000 people was not a problem. It was divided into two parts, the main palace and the auxiliary palace. The main palace was used for discussions, while the auxiliary palace had its own functions. For example, the library, the treasury, the alchemy room, and so on. It was even the residence of some worshippers. At that moment, in front of the palace, the middle-aged man who had watched the cultivator surnamed Feng try to possess him lifted his head and looked into the distance. That was where Di Shitian had broken through. The condensing of a domain and the vast phenomenon of drawing upon the power of heaven and earth naturally could not escape his eyes. He was slightly shocked in his heart. Who exactly was breaking through the tribulation? One had to know that only those who were able to pass the tribulation could be considered as true experts. It was impossible for such a person to be a nobody. He frowned slightly. Suddenly, he had a feeling in his heart. He muttered to himself, "Why do I suddenly have a bad premonition, as if a great disaster is about to befall our sect? There are many people who have a grudge with our sect. No, now is the best time for Marshal Uncle Feng to master the body of the white tiger. There can't be any mistakes. It seems that we have to be prepared, just in case." The 10,000 Beasts sect's leader's surname was Jiyu, and his name was Jiyu Yuanchen. His cultivation was already at the middle stage of the tribulation. Normally, after the leader of a sect reached the tribulation level, he would pass the position of leader to the next generation. He would then go into seclusion to cultivate and strive to break through to the immortal realm and become an immortal. However, because the experts in the sect had all left, he had no choice but to continue supporting the sect. However, when the experts in the sect returned, he would definitely pass the position of leader. The 1,000 Beasts sect occupied one main peak and 6 secondary peaks. In the main peak, there were 9 large spiritual veins, and the 6 secondary peaks each had 3 large spiritual veins. The spiritual energy was abundant. Tens of thousands of emperors gathered on each peak. There were no less than 50,000 disciples on the main peak. All of them added up to more than 100,000. At the foot of the mountain, there were even more spiritual maids planting spiritual grains. There were at least 300,000 to 400,000 of them. There was a large market nearby. Because the 1,000 Beasts sect sold spiritual beasts, it was extremely prosperous. Every day, there were hundreds of thousands of cultivators gathering in the market. It could be said that the 1,000 Beasts sect already had the atmosphere of a top sect. Outside was the realm of beasts, which prevented secular people from entering and disturbing them. It was also the first line of defense. Inside, all kinds of powerful ferocious beasts gathered, and a large number of races were constantly killing each other. It was extremely chaotic. Only the strong could survive. There was also a large 5 elements reversal maze formation. Rumble. In the distance, a thunderous divine light flashed across the sky like lightning and appeared in front of the realm of beasts. This is the realm of beasts. The 1,000 Beasts sect is in the depths of the realm of beasts. The divine light stopped in mid-air. The divine light dissipated, revealing the figure inside. Dressed in a black robe, Di Shitian coldly glanced at the scenery in front of him. In front of him was a large fog that covered hundreds of thousands of miles. It was so hazy that it was difficult to see what was behind the fog. However, there were terrifying beast roars coming from the fog. In these years, he had already inquired about the situation of the 1,000 Beasts sect. However, the demon clan of the southern barbarians had no way to reach here. He could only sort out the general situation of the 1,000 Beasts sect from the words of other cultivators. The 5 elements reversal maze formation can stop secular people, but it can't stop me. Di Shitian sneered. With a thought, a huge crystal throne emerged from the void below him. On it, 9 divine tigers were majestic. All kinds of pictures were constantly flashing on it. It could be seen that what was described in those pictures were actually all of Sakra's various experiences from the Tiger Hill. There were also mysterious seal scripts and a huge amount of incense and wish power gathered in the throne. As soon as the throne appeared, its vast aura spread out in all directions like a tide. The soaring sky throne. Di Shitian sat on the soaring sky throne. He was so majestic that no one dared to look directly at him. It was as if he was the ruler of this world. I have the divine eyes. How dare a mere fog block my way? Disperse. A purple gold mask appeared on Sakra's face, and the veins on the mask seemed to be alive. His two eyes coldly scanned the vast expanse of fog in front of him. Between his eyebrows, on the purple mark on his forehead, purple light flickered, bursting out tens of thousands of scattered lights. It rushed toward the realm of beasts in an overwhelming manner. Whoosh! This purple light was the divine light emitted by the divine eyes of heaven's punishment. This divine eye was born with the ability to see through illusions. How could the fog created by the five elements maze formation be hidden from this eye? Wherever the divine light went, large patches of fog would quickly scatter like ice and snow in summer. Large areas of scenery were revealed in the fog. It was a huge mountain range that stretched endlessly. There was a dense forest everywhere, and even the air was emitting a kind of terrifying evil aura. Countless ferocious beasts were roaring, and when the fog dispersed, the ferocious beasts immediately saw the numinous sky throne and Sakra who was sitting on it. Howl! Countless sharp cries came from below. Suddenly, a flock of cyan phoenixes rushed out of the forest. All of their eyes were red and emitted a fierce light. They did not have the bearing and demeanor of a king of birds that a cyan phoenixes should have. Obviously, they had been controlled by their fierce nature. They did not have much rationality. Humph! The beast sect deserves to die. Sakra sat upright on the throne and looked at the blue Luan birds that flew out from the forest. There were no less than 50 to 60,000 of them. They had even lost their temperament, only their ferocious nature remained. Blue Luan was a close relative of the phoenix's bloodline and had always had a very high status among the birds. Legend had it that they were the bodyguards of the phoenix and every single one of them was a sword expert. In the eyes of immortal cultivators, it was the best mount. The reason was that cyan phoenixes were extremely beautiful. They had cyan feathers, dragging a trail of divine light, and were incomparably noble. However, although there were more cyan phoenixes than phoenixes, there were not many of them. It was said that there were only 1 million cyan phoenixes on Phoenix Island. Later on, the world changed greatly, and even Phoenix Island disappeared. The number of cyan phoenixes outside decreased day by day, and it was rare to see a large number of cyan phoenixes. Here, there were 50 to 60,000 cyan phoenixes, and all of them had lost their composure. Although he did not know how the beast sect caught tens of thousands of cyan phoenixes, he could imagine how many rare species were caught and sold in the realm of beasts. They were used as mounts for other cultivators. Thinking of this, Di Shitien's eyes were about to spit out the anger in his eyes. Roar! Looking at the cyan phoenixes that had lost their noble nature, they were pouncing towards him without reason. The sharp claws under their bodies flickered with a cyan cold light, incomparably sharp. Di Shitien did not even blink his eyes. The mask on his face was incomparably cold. When the cyan phoenixes appeared in front of him, he opened his mouth and roared. Tiger's roar. An earth-shattering tiger's roar came out of his mouth. This time, there were no sound waves. It was just a simple tiger's roar. An overbearing aura that covered the entire realm of beasts roared and covered the entire realm of beasts. The domineering aura that belonged to him spread in all directions without any concealment. Everywhere it went, the vast pressure that belonged to a king filled the world. Below, the countless ferocious beasts in the realm of beasts, who had been roaring continuously, all stopped under this tiger's roar. They did not dare to make the slightest sound. The mountain forest became silent. The cyan phoenixes that had been pouncing towards him were also stunned in mid-air, not daring to move. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidien.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 475. Who is it? Who let out this tiger roar? It's covering the entire realm of beasts. This can only be done by an expert at the tribulation stage. My premonition was right. There really is a great enemy coming to our sect. Gu Yuanchen was originally sitting in the main hall to meditate. When he heard the tiger roar that shook the heavens and earth, his eyes opened instantly, shooting out two threatening rays of light. It was impossible for an ordinary tiger clan to let out such a domineering tiger roar. The aura that came from this roar was almost like the vast might of the heavens. Even he felt a great sense of oppression. Obviously, the person who came was not only a demon, but also an expert of the demon clan, an expert who had reached the realm of an ancient demon king. Demon clan. Only demons can let out such a pure tiger roar. However, there is no tiger clan among the 8 demon kings. Could it be an old monster that has been hiding, or a newly promoted ancient demon king? In his heart, he was constantly trying to figure out the information from the tiger roar. However, his body suddenly stood up. He raised his voice and said, "Disciples of the Thousand Beasts sect, listen to my order. All disciples, hear the bell and return to the sect immediately. If you don't return, you will be punished. Activate the sect-protecting formation and prepare to defend against the strong enemy." The moment the voice was released, it spread throughout the entire mountain gate. Suddenly, bells rang from one of the main peaks and the 6 secondary peaks. The crisp sound reverberated throughout the entire realm of beasts. Those who came did not come with good intentions. Those with good intentions would not come. From the tiger roar, they could already understand everything. Those who came definitely did not want to drink and chat with them. Immediately, the entire Thousand Beasts sect began to operate. A large number of disciples returned one after another and appeared in their respective positions. All of them had solemn expressions and were followed by ferocious spiritual beasts. In the realm of beasts, there was also an uproar. The spirit plant farmers below all became bewildered. Clearly, they found it hard to imagine why things would suddenly become like this. Then, when they realized that enemies had arrived, they all had panicked expressions. They looked with heartache at the spirit items they had planted. To them, those were the foundation of their survival. If they fought and destroyed them, then their efforts during this period of time would be in vain. In the market, there were not only disciples of the Thousand Beasts sect. In fact, most of them were cultivators from outside. At this moment, there was an uproar. All kinds of noises could be heard everywhere. Did I hear wrong? Someone is looking for the 10,000 Beasts sect. It seems like they don't have good intentions and want to harm the 10,000 Beasts sect. This is the 10,000 Beasts sect's base, their territory. More than 100,000 disciples are gathered here, as well as a large number of experts. Wouldn't it be suicide to cause trouble here? It's not a human. This is a tiger's roar. It sounded like a demon. Some of the demon clan experts looked at Hu Xiao. TSK. His strength was at least at the level of tribulation transcendence. There will be a good show to watch. Could it be that one of the 8 great fiend kings has come? Demon race. It was no wonder that the Thousand Beasts sect was the craziest when it came to capturing spirit beasts and demonic beasts. They specialized in capturing demonic beasts and selling them. This was simply a natural enemy of the demonic beasts. It must be that the Thousand Beasts sect's actions had angered the demonic beasts. He's here for revenge. I heard that the demon clan isn't as weak as they seem on the surface. Do you know the Cloud Dream Swamp? There's a great demon of the demon clan there. A great demon is a powerful existence comparable to an immortal. We really can't push the demon too hard. Otherwise, if he's really pushed too hard, he'll fight with his life. That's not a joke. There's going to be a good show to watch this time. This is a once-in-a-century event. Don't get involved and lose your life. The outpost was comparable to an immortal cultivator's city, and was extremely large. The cultivators inside were talking about all sorts of things. However, they all had the premonition that something big was about to happen. Within a loft in the marketplace, the princess of the Yun clan was dressed in green. Beside her was a strange tiger cub with 2 heads on its neck. She held it tightly in her arms as if she had just bought it here. Zhong Yunfei stood upright beside her. The two of them were engaged. Standing in the pavilion, They looked in the direction of Di Shitian. Although they couldn't see him, both Chu Yun and Zhong Yunfei's expressions changed slightly. It's him. At the same time, they exclaimed in their hearts. It wasn't the first time they had heard this familiar tiger roar. Almost instantly, that familiar figure appeared in their minds. Hearing the tiger roar, their expressions changed slightly. He actually reached such an unbelievable realm. He actually cultivated faster than me. How heaven-defying is his talent? Chu Yun's eyes revealed a complicated expression. The two of them cultivated powerful cultivation techniques and had the support of a huge force behind them. Large amounts of pills and all kinds of resources were used on them. Until now, they had only reached the body integration realm. They were in a period of rapid improvement. They were being nurtured vigorously. But Di Shitian? They had different thoughts. Di Shitian was a mere demon. He didn't have strength or money. He had to rely on himself for all his cultivation. How could he suppress them all the way and not even have a chance to turn things around? This made it difficult for them to not have other thoughts in their hearts. However, Di Shitian didn't immediately rush to the 10,000 Beasts sect. Since he was already here, the 10,000 Beasts sect couldn't escape. Sooner or later, he would have to settle the score. On the contrary, when he saw the tens of thousands of green luan in front of him, a thought surged into his mind, and he instantly became determined. The things that the 10,000 Beasts sect has done to us demons are simply too many to count. They actually used vicious methods to lose the nature of all the spirit beasts and let them fight to determine the strongest. Then, they sold them to others or guarded the sect. They were born to be enemies with us demons. As long as I'm here, the 10,000 Beasts sect can't be left alive. Today, I should let you know the consequences of enslaving all beasts. Di Shitian glanced around. There were green luan in the sky and a large number of other races living in the forest. They had all lost their minds using special methods. Even the tiger roar just now didn't wake them up. They were only shocked for a moment and felt a strong threat. They didn't regain their clarity. They were still ferocious beasts that only knew how to kill. Lost your minds? Then I'll wake you up. Sitting on the throne, he exuded a majestic aura, as if he was the ruler of the world. His majestic aura spread out in all directions like a tide. The entire throne quickly rose into the air until it was above the entire realm of beasts. All the cultivators could see the majestic throne with their own eyes. He stretched out his hand and waved it. A strange jade light flashed in front of him. The 7 sins demonic zither that had been nourishing in his body suddenly appeared in front of him and floated in front of him. It was as if there was a real zither table under the zither. It steadily crossed the void. Di Shitian put both hands on the zither. His left hand pressed the strings, and his right hand moved from the left side to the right side of the zither. Ding! Ding! Dong! 10 slender fingers smoothly plucked the strings like moving clouds and flowing water. Waves of clear zither music like the tinkling of a small spring flowed through the whole world. Like a small spring flowing out, it contained a kind of aura that calmed the mind. It made the listener feel as if they were by a quiet stream and were listening to the flowing water. Their minds became inexplicably calm, and their souls were sublimated by the zither music. There was a strange power in the zither music. It made people feel a different kind of tranquility. All the irritability, under the zither music, disappeared little by little under the gentle touch of a lover, and calmed down. There was this kind of magical power that made people unconsciously immerse themselves in it. Experience that unique kind of calmness.